Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 258th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me this evening so far, we have Ozzy Smith and Andy Patterson. A few of the other bods are going to be jumping on in due course. Plus, we're hoping to have 2, maybe 3 guests on over the course of the evening, so keep an eye out for that. We've got a bit of Usyk Briedis coming up later. Linares, Lucas Matisse, there's Adam Smido-Smith jumping on, always welcome with us as well, Adam. And we'll be discussing the fights for next week. And we're going to start off this week, I think, with Errol Spence against LAMONT Peterson. Just a touch too far for Mr. Peterson, unfortunately. He tried hard, but he wasn't able to stop the roving Texan who did a great job, Errol Spence, after all this time out of the ring this year. I liked Spence's poise and his ability to stand inside, and he created angles for himself. He worked the body really well. He was a little wayward at times. I know Harvey Dock warned him. He did get warned, but it didn't deter him. He got straight back in there. Peterson tried a couple of things, but he was just second best from the opening bell, unfortunately. And the main issue is we really need to see Spence active and fighting. No more layoffs. More defences is what's needed, and onto unifications with his main 147-pound rivals. I'm assuming you agree with all of that, Andy. I know that Barry Jones said afterwards on Box Nation that the one thing we don't know about Spence is that can he go through the gears? Can he raise it a notch or two when required? He likened Peterson being hurt to like a Sugar Ray Leonard opponent being hurt, and said that when Leonard needed to raise it a level, he was able to take a man straight out, no messing. And we don't know yet if Spence is able to do that. It's not a criticism, but that's one thing that Barry Jones raised. Tell me your overall thoughts, Andy, about the fight.
We're still to kind of see him I don't think I've actually seen him hurt before, actually, so he's not really needed to do what Ray Leonard did in the past and that, but fight yourself, he dominated, absolutely crushed the guy. It was getting really kind of difficult to watch, I thought, at some points. You know, Peterson well knew he was going to be tough in that, and in the end it was the right call by his trainer. It was just going ahead one way, as you say. What I was really impressed with Spence last night was his jab, you know, on the attack and on defence. So if you noticed it when he was like moving back and that, he was popping out the double jab, the right hooks and left hands to the body, and that he was really aiming them kind of early doors, especially straight left to the pit of the stomach, right hook to the ribs. All round, I thought it was a really good performance. Again, I don't know how much we're going to really kind of put stock into this, because we all did think, well, I felt at least anyway, that Peterson, he was going to get stopped. Spence, obviously, is a different level, but I just think that Peterson, he's just either he's off the gear now anyway, but he wasn't letting his hands go. Maybe it was because he was getting hurt. He knew he couldn't kind of really let his hands go too often because he was just going to get picked apart. But I totally agree with you. I think now we need to see him in with the likes of your Keith Thurman, but it's, again, by the looks of it, this fight's not going to happen till at least the end of the year. You know, he's caught him sometime, Thurman, which is probably right. I said it last week as well. Thurman spoke a lot, but not really kind of backed it up as such. It's a fight we kind of need to happen. He's talking about maybe fighting Canelo at 160 and stuff like that. So clearly he's a guy with plans that we're kind of moving up in weight. But it's, you know, hopefully, as you say, he's going to be active. He's promised the announcement in the next couple of weeks or something like that in the next couple of days when he's going to be fighting next, maybe about April or May time. Don't know who we're going to get as an opponent. I know he's not got a mandatory arranged with IBF. Garcia, I think he's fighting Rios, which is a joke. I don't know what's happening with Sean Porter again. And obviously Keith Thurman's he's out injured with a shoulder injury, so he's going to want to tune up. But TC's fighting shortly as well. So I think he's kind of like running out of options a wee bit, unless he's going to kind of go down there and maybe kind of pick out one of the IBF voluntaries and stuff like that. But again, the names are not really inspiring, so
they're poor, Andy, aren't they? Really,
it really is, mate. We did mention a couple of weeks back as well, 154 apart from the top end guys, which we're wanting to see happen. Again, it's kind of bare, I think. No really kind of great names there either. So if he's going to go for 147 right up to 160 for a fight and that, then I'd be down for it. But obviously he's going to hang about 147, try and get unification fight. Again, we obviously got Jeff Horn, Terence Crawford. That's, I don't know how doable that fight is. Spence is obviously telling Oscar to kind of try and get the Canelo fight made. So it's clear that you know that they can be made, these fights, but or possibly talks could be had to make these fights. But again, as I said last night, he was impressive. I don't know how much stock he went to put in it, because you know Peterson was just simply outclassed. He had nothing really to kind of really back Spence up with, hurt him in any sort of way and stuff. So again, good performance, but as for the future, we really need to see the Thurman fight. But again, I'm not holding it any great shakes. So again, Spence, the only thing I can ask from between now and the end of the year is to stay active. If it's going to be voluntary defences with IBF, that so be it. Or he tries and gets a unification fight waiting on Thurman. But other than that, I really don't know what else we can expect from him just now.
Peterson had very minimal success, Ozzy, mainly with the left hook at times. He didn't really come forward, he just stayed in range and he couldn't pull the trigger or let his shots go, mainly, I thought, because of Spence's speed of hand and his accuracy and even his punching power. Is there anything more, Ozzy, do you think that Peterson could have done to get himself into the fight?
I think if it was going to be anything, it would have been early. I think it's a little bit different. I'm not comparing them, but I think Kell Brook had early success against Spence, and that was in first 3 or 4 rounds. But Brook's a lot quicker in terms of Peterson. He looked a bit shy of sorts, perhaps wary of the power. I thought Spence was excellent with the body shots, like you say, accurate. And he remained very sharp as well, it was good to see considering he's been out of the ring so long. I mean, when he beat Kell Brook, he was hot property. He was the fighter on the end of everybody's tongue, and he kind of went missing. So it was great to see him back. It was clinical, the right word. I think it's fair. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that he did a decent enough job. And I completely agree with Andy now. It's a case of let's keep him active. He put out on social media last night. He's got a fight date confirmed and it'll be announced soon. So that's excellent news. And we just want to see the unifications now. If it has to be a voluntary, there's not that many names there, but I wouldn't turn my nose up against someone like Porter or something like that. I'd rather see him in with somebody like that rather than, one of these bogus IBF people, like where we've seen Kevin Bizier and Jojo Dan there. I'd rather see someone like that involved. And then obviously, hopefully, let's get the Thurman fight on, or the winner of Crawford and Horn, which will happen later in the year.
Smido, I trust you saw Mr. Spence laying down a beating on Lamont Peterson. Peterson's brother Anthony's still fighting, actually. He was also on the card. I thought he'd retired. Spence Crawford is the fight we all want to see, Smido, but it'll take years to brew and sort out. Tell me a mega fight that was just made straight away, and it ain't a mega fight. Ones that get made quickly don't tend to be the super fights. You have to wait a little bit, unfortunately, over the next year or two. Hopefully they'll get Crawford and Spence together and we'll be able to see that. Is that ultimately what you'd like to see in the long run, Crawford against Spence, Smith?
I think Crawford against Spence, one of the best fights that can be made in boxing, to be honest. But I don't, as everyone said, we're unlikely to see that probably anytime soon, possibly not until next year. The one thing that can be done and would be good is the Thurman fight whenever he's back from injury and had a bit of a warm-up that Spence seems to have enabled him to have. I was impressed with Spence last night. I was obviously impressed with him against Brook as well. Just the way he battered that body last night with straight punches and then in the first round, bringing hooks in to the body in the second round. He kept his jab busy, throughout. Nothing spectacular with the jab, but it was setting. It really did control the fight for him, and he was setting stuff up from there. And then I think he's got a decent enough killer instinct as well, Spence. He just looks so comfortable when shots are coming his way. His hands enable him to. There was a massive difference last night in how both fighters were holding the hands. Peterson was coming forward and kind of, Felix Sturm-esque, and Spence was there, wide-ish hands, could see what was coming, was pivoting, and he made it look pretty easy. Lamont Peterson did make it an easy night's work for Spence because he was just getting into the pocket or getting in range and not doing a lot. I don't think we need to get too carried away with a Spence win over Lamont, a dominant win over Lamont Peterson. The Brook win was obviously better in terms of putting him right amongst it. But Peterson above 140 hasn't been all that great shakes, has he really? To be honest. So yeah, we've got to remember what we're dealing with here. But he's one of them, Peterson. He has a loss, goes back to the grind. Gets a couple of wins away from away from the bright lights and gets himself a ranking, and that's how he got into this position. But the line seems to be that no one really wanted to fight Spence, and Peterson did, so everyone seems to be giving him credit for that. But yeah, Spence is exciting. We just need to see him active.
Agree with that, Smid. Agree with that. The official voice of American boxing's on the line with us, Dave the Hater Lowback. Thurman Spence is the one, isn't it, Dave? I talked about Crawford, but that's a little bit off into the future. Thurman, I think it was an elbow injury. He went off and got married to find himself as well in the Nepalese mountains. Presuming he comes back fighting fit, he'll have one fight, maybe two, if he gets a move on in March, possibly September. Could we see Thurman against Spence end of the year sort of thing, Dave? That would be the fight to make.
Well, if Thurman's going to keep fighting, I think you're going to have to eventually see that fight sooner rather than later. The fans and promotion might allow Thurman to have a tune-up fight after his surgery or whatever the hell he's been off for. But it's going to be mandatory that he either moves up, retires, or takes the Spence fight. It's going to happen. I don't think there's any way around this. You can't even use the excuses that some people seem to put up with for some reason that they're under different promotion. You can't use that excuse. It's got to happen. And so if Thurman continues to fight, sorry, there's a lot of noise in the fucking background.
What's going on, Dave? Is there a dispute?
Chang killed the dog, and that's what he just finished eating there. Little brother Chang.
It's gonna happen. If Thurman continues fighting.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks to Cindy as well in the background there, making her regular appearance. Rob Kelly's on with us. Good to hear from you, Rob. Tell me what you saw in there last night. The way I look at it, after an impressive beating over a solid opponent, I'm sure you're excited to see Spence's next fight, which is probably going to be late November, early December, if Al Heyman has his way.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Spence. I've been, as I said, numerous times on the pod. I've been following him from early. As soon as I heard that he beat up Floyd in that sparring session, allegedly, I was checking for him. I had heard about him floating around the Olympic team, but a real fighter, and the thing that people were saying before he beat Brook, they were like, well, he hasn't beaten anybody. My point was the way he was beating the guys that he was beating. Dealt with Algieri, dealt with Bundu, dealt with Brook in the end after, and Brook was a top welterweight. A lot of people thought Brook was the number 147 pounder after Floyd retired. So dealt with Brook. So I fully expected him to stop Spence, or to stop Peterson rather. And Peterson was game. He's a tough kid. You know what I mean? He took a hell of a beating there last night. I think the corner did well pulling him out. But Spence is brilliant, man. Just, you grow up watching guys like Mike McCallum, and you see guys going to the body. It's kind of a lost art. Thumped him to the body. And I saw Peterson was doing a lot of core work in the training for this fight. They were doing a lot of conditioning on his stomach, but couldn't hold up to the shots. Spence seemed like he was able to get off whenever he wanted to. I'm going to make a minor criticism of him. I did think that he didn't look that evasive last night. Maybe that's because he thought Peterson had nothing for him. He wasn't going to be able to hurt him, but he got caught a couple of times. So he's not the perfect fighter by any stretch, but he's a breath of fresh air really, because he's not an asshole. He seems like he's not an asshole, and he's the top guy in the division for me, and he wants to fight everyone. So he's making all the right noises. He's not, a lot of the times, the most talented guy in the division is saying, "Oh, well, we'll see what happens next." Or if they're with Eddie, they'd be like, "Well, the mandatories are coming up, so we better fight Kevin Bizier and Jojo Dan. We have to get those ones out of the way." He's just like, "No, I want Thurman. I want the unification fights." I think Danny Garcia will run and hide behind a mountain rather than fight him. I don't think Thurman wants it either. So unfortunately, I think what we see next is one or two mandatories, especially the IBF. They seem to really hammer those mandatories for the IBF. I wouldn't be holding out too much hope that we're going to get anybody that could test him pretty soon, but I'm happy to see him out anytime. The Crawford fight for me is miles away. We haven't even seen what Crawford's like at 147 yet. I think that's a long way off, but happy to see Spence there as the king of the 147 pounders. He's a big 147 pounder. Someone mentioned last night that he called out Canelo or something. So I wouldn't rule out seeing him going up weight in the future. But it's good to see somebody who's happy to fight everybody in their prime. So I'm a big fan.
Rob, before you jump off, we had a question in from Simon Alevi, which I'm going to ask you. Completely biased, as he's one of my favourite fighters, says Simon. But I can see Spence beating everyone, whether it's at 147 or 154. That includes Crawford moving up. Do you, Rob, agree? If anyone does beat Spence, then who is it and how?
I don't know at the moment because there's not much at 154. I think Lara gives him a fight. I think it'd be interesting to see him in get with somebody like Lara who can move, who can, probably give him something different. His last couple of opponents kind of been standing right in front of him. So it'll be interesting to see what he's like when someone's on their bike. Yeah, I would agree. I think I have to see, and Crawford's one of my favorite fighters, so I'm in no way running Crawford down. And as things stand, to me, with Ward retiring, Crawford's the number one pound for pound guy in this sport. But I think the size difference is too much there. I think Crawford's comfortable at 140. He might be a big 140 pounder, but we'll have to see how he grows into 147. And he's a great wrestler and everything in a wrestling background, Terence Crawford. So he's very strong, but I think two guys of similar talent levels, and Spence is just too big for him if that fight happens. So we have to see. But that's without seeing Crawford out at 47 yet either, though. So you know what I mean.
Fair enough. This might not come as a revelation to too many people, but I was having a little think when I was watching Spence fighting Peterson this morning. I thought the win for Spence over Brook was obviously an excellent win. But then I was thinking Brook's career, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, but is it just me, or is Brook's career and his resume a little bit, I don't really want to say shit, but a little bit weak? Considering this is a guy who's been a pro for 14 years. I'm talking about Kell Brook now. Since 2004, he turned pro. He's coming into his 14th year. And I was thinking to myself, what's Kell Brook's best win? Well, it's obviously Sean Porter in 2014. Okay, Sean Porter, good fighter, raise you to a very good fighter. Not a great fighter. As Rob said the other week, it's Sean Porter we're talking about. It was a close fight. A few people thought Porter got it. I thought Brook did enough to win. But that's his best win so far. Look at his defences, Jojo Dan, Frankie Gavin, Kevin Bizier. The real depths, like scraping the barrel defences. Went up to fight Gennady Golovkin, fair enough, balls of steel. Bit of a free pass, really, though, wasn't it? Going up to middleweight. Knew he was going to get his head caved in. Gave 1.5 rounds of good action, but ultimately got stopped and got a lot of credit for it. But it was almost like, he knew what he was doing there. And then he comes back down, weight drained, obviously, fights Errol Spence, gives a good account of himself early on, gets stopped. His two good performances against Golovkin and Spence, he both lost. So what I'm saying is, finally getting to the point, is that Kell Brook's resume is pretty weak, really. He hasn't really beaten anybody. Who disagrees or agrees?
It's shit, mate. You said that this before you started in your rant there. It is shit. I mean, you could probably rank his wins, probably, as you say, Porter number one. After that, you maybe need to say, Sinchenko number two. Maybe Gavin. He would need to be in the top. He would need to be in the top five. I mean, think about it. His top 5 wins is probably Sinchenko, Carson Jones, Porter, Dan, and Bizier.
No. Surely someone like Matthew Hatton had done a job on Bizier.
Well, I suppose he was floating about European level for a fair bit of time. He did go a distance against Canelo. Drew and then do, I remember rightly as well. But, Ben Taki's usually kind of decent.
Yeah, I'm only going off what we saw of Bizier and Dan, and they both looked utter garbage against Brook. But I agree with the rest.
Didn't Brook beat and do as well, Ozzy, at one point, or did I imagine that?
No, he did.
And then
that's not too bad.
The sad part about it is now, if you look at it, this is the climate that we're in. Eddie can manufacture you a career, similarly to Bellew, although Bellew's resume is probably better. But they're already at a stage now where they're looking at cashing out. You know what I mean? He's looking at big paydays now, after fighting who?
Brook's a pay-per-view fighter. This is a pay-per-view fighter we're talking about.
I remember seeing him at Kelvin Hall against Kevin McIntyre when he smashed the guy in one round. I think it was, did he become the youngest or the quickest British champion at the time or something like that?
It's a big year for Brook because he's only on about retiring and not even fighting next year. In his interview this week, he said this might be his last year. So now that he's got them couple of losses and he is looking to cash out, I think he could be a fighter that does go over to America and ends up fighting one of the boys over there. Possibly, I'm just pointing it out there, Danny Jacob.
I think that would end badly for Kell, to be honest, Smidder.
Yeah, but I think that the whole project of Kell Brook's last year and getting paydays is going to end badly at some stage, to be honest. But Eddie Hearn can't take the full blame for this one, unfortunately, because
he had that WBO mandatory position with Frank for about a year and a half before he even went to Eddie. So, yeah, but as Rob says, it's just the era that we live in. You can get one half decent win. I actually had Porter winning that fight. And then, yeah, just live off of that. Fight 3 shocking defences, absolutely shocking. You know, and then get found out against someone like Errol Spence.
Not to go off on a tangent here, but where do people think Peterson goes from here? Because he's been a good servant, like, isn't he? He's a tough kid. He's only really lost to good fighters. Like, you know.
Yeah, he wasn't sure about carrying on when they asked him the question, but it seemed quite a mature and measured interview with his trainer. And like I said, he'll be back after he lost to Danny Garcia. He went and fought a couple of kids, Diaz and Evasian, I think, and you know, under the radar type fights, but gets his ranking back. He's only 33.
See, I thought that Felix Diaz schooled him, and Felix Diaz looked really good in that fight. And this is the same Felix Diaz who was made to look an absolute mug. Really, I mean, a mug with a ton of heart and will, but a mug by Terence Crawford. So I think I know styles make fights, and boxing math doesn't always translate. In fact, it often doesn't. But when you're talking about levels like that, I think we're talking about levels. I don't think Peterson is a particularly high level win for Errol Spence. The guy cannot fight moving backwards. I don't know why they always classify him as a boxer. He can move backwards and defend himself, okay, but he can't fight off the back foot. He can't throw a shot. His jab off the back foot is bad. Coming forward, he's got a solid jab. He's got great punches coming forward. He had a few okay counter right hands, which Spence probably shouldn't have been open for. But I mean, it was just so his style is so predictable, and his weaknesses are also not necessarily always suited to that style. It made it very easy to predict that Matisse was going to stop him and that Errol Spence was going to stop him.
Yeah, well, if anybody disagrees with my Kell Brook rant, hit me up on Twitter and give me what for, but it just occurred to me and I felt I would voice it this evening. And a question from Liam Wynn, staying on the Errol Spence subject. Thoroughly enjoyed Errol Spence Jr.'s display against Peterson, says Liam. Great use of angles, punch variation, investing particularly to the body, great footwork moving in and out of distance, hitting and not getting hit. Here's the question part. Shout out to Peterson's trainer, calling off the fight at the right time. With all this in mind, Andy, can you rank the top 5 welterweights? Who are the top 5 welterweights in the world right now, in your opinion?
Crawford, Spence, I suppose we need to put Thurman in there. And then it's a toss-up. I don't know if we're going to include Pacquiao in here, but I would say it's a toss-up between Pac and probably... I suppose
Garcia.
Matisse and Garcia.
I can tell Andy really did not want to say Danny Garcia.
I know, I didn't want to say it. So that's the reason why I put him in Matisse in like between 5 and 6, you know.
What about AB?
Fucking Garcia, man. Garcia, like, I just noticed something today that Rios has fought twice in the last 2 years. Once in the last 2 years. Or something like that. And he's ranked 9th with WBC now. That's fucking terrible, man.
He is shot to bits. Shot to bits.
Did you see Broner wandering around at ringside, Andy? You wouldn't want to buy a ticket behind him, would you? The pain in the arse. He kept on standing up and walking across the row and walking back again. You want to tell him to sit down?
He's a little reptilian ball bag, by the way. I cannot stand him. I mean, it's too easy. It's too easy hating them, right? But I seen that. What do you call him? Radio Raheem's interview and stuff like that, and I think he was just getting too close to the point about him trying to get back on the world level and that. He's just been that obnoxious wee fucking ball bag. I just wish he would go outside and either get hit with his fucking Bentley off the fucking valet driver, or someone would come past like fucking Tupac style and just mow him down. You know, he's just that fucking little irritant little cunt.
Steve, can I ask a casual question? Is Terence Crawford officially at welterweight now?
Yeah, he's dropped the belts and moved up. I mean, is he officially? He hasn't fought anybody there, but we're going under the assumptions that he's going to fight somebody there. He's dropped his belts. He's up at the weight. As far as we know, Smidger.
No date or opponent.
No, they're talking about Jeff Horn, aren't they? But nothing's been inked as yet. But he's a welterweight for all intents and purposes, yeah. Right, Kevin Watson sent in a message. Daft trivia question. This is actually quite a good one. He said, is White versus Browne the first time? This is Lucas Browne against Dillian White. Is it the first time there's been a fight between two fighters whose surnames are both colours spelt incorrectly? That's quite a good one there from Kevin Watson. Thanks for throwing that in.
And the reverse race, too. You got a black dude named White and a white dude named Browne.
Great stuff, Dave. Maybe coming off of all the trivia tonight. Well done. Right, Dave, while you're unhooked, tell me about Robert Easter Jr.'s defence against Javier Fortuna. Once again, Easter Jr. has made a little bit of a meal out of this one. He's a bit of a spindly character, isn't he, Easter? He looks like he could go at any minute, but he managed to get the job done.
He looked about a foot taller than Fortuna, and Fortuna's the one who missed weight. But, he's I don't know. I've seen Easter Jr. live and in person when he fought Comey. He looked a hell of a lot better that night than he did against Fortuna. And I know Fortuna is really awkward, and he's pretty good in his own weird way. I don't like him though because he acts like a cunt in the ring. He's dirty and he kind of showboats and he's got this kind of irritating swagger about him. It was just really entertaining to see him get smashed by Jason Sosa. And bringing that up, I think that's the level we're talking about here. Jason Sosa knocked this guy out, and you see Robert Easter in there, life and death with him. I think, I don't like Fortuna, but I think Fortuna probably deserved to win that by a point or two. Easter just looked horrific. I don't think he landed one notable clean punch all night. I know we don't like CompuBox here, but CompuBox had him landing only 10 jabs in 12 rounds. And
really, for all the size of him?
Yeah, he just squared up and tried to fight on the inside of it. And his defense was pathetic. It was bad. It was a shit fight. I think with that awkward Fortuna style, you can oftentimes get a shit fight. Although his fight with Jason Sosa wasn't bad. It was ugly, but it was kind of fun in its own weird way. But last night was putrid. Hated it. And I don't really care who won. Kind of glad that Fortuna lost, actually, just because he missed weight like a bitch. That's just very unprofessional, missing weight by 2 pounds. And when you're a young guy and it's your first world title shot. Is it his first world title shot? I think it is. Doesn't matter. Easter's not going anywhere fast at this rate. He maybe needs to change trainers. I don't know, but he seems to have regressed.
You mean Fortuna's first world title shot? No, he was a world champion, wasn't he, at super featherweight?
Oh, he was. I never knew that. Okay.
Yeah, because he lost to Sosa, didn't he? He lost to Sosa in Beijing, lost that title.
Okay, I didn't know they were fighting for a belt then, but I guess that makes sense because then was Stephen Smith fought for the title against Sosa, right? Okay.
Right, Ozzy. Tell me about the fight itself. I mentioned Shafikov there. You can't blame Easter, first of all, I don't think, for the ridiculous scoring in the Shafikov fight. 120-108 twice, even though it was a close fight. I thought Easter won 115-113, but I don't think you can lay the blame at Easter's door for the scores, first of all. This is another close one. A lot of people thought Fortuna won. Why is Easter getting these totals in his favour? And did you actually think that Easter won last night, Ozzy?
I didn't openly score it like I do other fights, and I felt it was close. Now, I've seen people's opinions who I respect, and some felt Easter edged it out by a couple of points, but they did say that had it been a draw or the other way, they wouldn't have complained. So I think when you're seeing things like that, it's obviously a close fight. You can't attach any blame to a fighter on the cards. You just can't. They have zero control over it. They're not the ones filling in the boxes. Is it a coincidence? I'm not sure. Did they side with the champion because he's the champion? I mean, you see these things like how you need to rip a belt away from a champion, which I don't agree with. If you have done enough to win, you've done enough to win. You shouldn't have to go above and beyond, in my opinion. So I don't really know why he's getting them, whether it's just like a bit of lady luck of sorts, but he's getting not the benefit of the doubt, but like I said, he is the champion, so they're looking at him more. But I agree, I didn't think it was the best of performances, and I do think the other champions at lightweight would probably have the beating of him.
Excellent stuff. Thanks, Ozzy. We'll take a break from this card very briefly to welcome in our guest, current Commonwealth Cruiserweight holder, Luke the Duke Watkins. How you sounding, Luke? You hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. How's it going, lads? You well?
Yes, not too bad at all. We can hear you as well, which is excellent. We've got Luke here for about 10 minutes or so. So if anybody has any Twitter questions for him, send them to me. Pretty sharpish, and I will ask them. Also, the panel will be asking their questions as well. Just to start things off, Luke, things are going pretty well for you at the moment. Won the vacant Commonwealth title against Robin Dupre, defended it against Mike Stafford. A good 2017 as well after beating Ian Timms. Happy enough with the way things went for you last year?
Yeah, definitely. I can't argue with how things turned out. I'm happy to be where I am and keep progressing forward.
You showed against Timms that you got a bit of a dig. You're obviously 13-0 with 9 knockouts. You boxed him quite handily early on and then let the big shot go. Are you a clubbing puncher, a one-punch KO artist? Do you believe that you have the power to get the guys out at a higher level if you need to?
Yeah, definitely. I believe anyone above super middleweight can find the punch that could knock most people out. I think it's just looking and being consistent and finding the shot. And yeah, I think my record speaks for itself, and I do have that power.
You're from Swindon, training with Paddy Fitzpatrick, I believe. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your training setup, your regime, day-to-day type of things?
Yeah, I suppose it's like any other pros. I'm with him 5 days a week. I spend time with a strength coach. I spend time with a conditioning coach, and obviously I'm always seeing the masseuse, making sure I'm in tip-top shape for training all the time. It's day in, day out. It's eat, sleep, train, repeat.
Who have you sparred with, Luke? I always ask this question. Who are some of the better guys that you've got in and trained with and sparred with away from the ring?
Most probably the best guy would be Fury, Tyson Fury. He's the number one heavyweight in the world. Until Anthony Joshua does a number on him. I sparred with Groves, many rounds with Groves. Sparred with Nathan Cleverly, Enzo Machinelli. I'm currently, as I'm on the call with you right now, I'm sat in Poland, sparring with Krzysztof Glowacki, the guy Usyk just took the WBO title from. They're the guys that come to the front of my mind, but I've spent lots of time sparring different people, traveling anywhere for sparring, really.
You made an interesting point there. I'm not going to let you get away with a bit more explanation about this one. Joshua against Fury, you've laid your cards on the table. Tell me why AJ knocks him out and how that one plays out.
I didn't say AJ knocks him out. That's a fifth. For me, Tyson Fury's boxing skills are better than Anthony Joshua's. But Tyson Fury can go down. We've seen it. Steve Cunningham, who moved up from cruiserweight to heavyweight, dropped Fury. So it shows he can be dropped, he can be hurt, and Joshua definitely has the ability to do that. This is just a very interesting fight for me. At the moment, until Joshua beats him, to me, Fury was the best in the world. He's the one who dethroned and absolutely schooled Klitschko.
Just looking at your own career, I've got Boxer up in front of me. You're ranked number 2, the British cruiserweight scene, behind Matty Askin, who I believe is fighting Stephen Simmons next. Who would you pick to win out of Askin against Simmons?
I think Matty Askin's going to win that. I think Stephen Simmons will make a hard night's work for him. But on ability, I think Askin beats him.
And then obviously you want in next to fight the winner?
Absolutely. Matty Askins, I'm more than happy to fight him in a unification. Or even if Simmons wins, this is boxing, anything can happen. And I'm happy to fight either of the two.
And provided you get on, obviously, win the British title, you've got your Commonwealth as well. I mean, you looking beyond European, how far do you think you can go in this game, realistically?
In my opinion, you're a mug if you come into this game not to reach the pinnacle of the sport. Some people are happy and content. That's up to them, and that's just an opinion of myself and what I expect of myself. So I'm not calling anyone else a mug. I would be calling myself a mug if I didn't think I could reach the top. And that's where I'm going to go.
The World Boxing Super Series is going on at 2 weights at the moment. It's on at your weight, at Cruiserweight. It's been very exciting. We've seen the best start to filter through, the likes of Usyk, Briedis, Dortico and Gassiev. Who do you think will win the tournament, and what have you made of it so far?
It's been all right. Perez's fight was cool, went 12 rounds, and he lost it. But I think Usyk wins in the Cruiserweight division, and super middleweight. Oh man, that's interesting. I see Callum Smith being one side of the tournament, but I think if Groves can get rid of Eubank, I think Groves beats Callum Smith. And I see him winning. But again, that fight's very much 50-50.
Just to remind our listeners, we've got Luke Watkins on the call at the moment, Commonwealth Cruiserweight Champion at the Duke Watkins on Twitter. Is that right, Luke?
That's correct. Add me, follow me, interact. That's what it's for, social media.
Definitely hit him up. If any of the guys on the panel have any questions, then jump in now before we let Luke go. We've got a couple of minutes left. Ozzy, I believe you had a question for Luke.
Yeah, there's a couple of ones. How did the opportunity about going out to Poland come around? Have you done this before, or are you in preparation for a fight, or has Glowacki got something lined up himself?
Yeah, he has a fight February the 10th. And you know how sparring goes, they're always looking for new sparring partners to test the waters and see how people get on. I got a phone call, asked to come over, so I've come over. I've been here for a week and just learning, enjoying the experience, making the most of it.
And you mentioned you obviously want the winner of Askins and Simmons, which would be a great fight. But for yourself, are you looking to see, you've been on the last couple of Cyclone promotion shows, are you looking to get out yourself so you're not, like you're active as well, and then you can go into the fight? You both fought at relatively the same time.
Yeah, I'm fighting in Swindon. I haven't fought in my hometown for over a year now, so it's nice to get back and fight in front of my home crowd because they do all the travelling, supporting and following me wherever I go. That's March the 3rd. No retreat, no surrender. I'm looking forward to that. And then after that, big summer showdown.
You, Ozzy?
Yeah, that's everything.
I've got a couple of listeners have sent in the same question here actually, but they're asking, was the Askins fight ever offered to you beforehand, and was it turned down?
It was never turned down. We was in talks with Askins' team, we was in talks with Cycling Promotion, and we were just in the process of, crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and the British Board of Boxing Control stepped in and ordered Matty to face his mandatory, which was Simmons. By right, as a champion, he did have that obligation and he was fit, so I can understand that. So that's how that broke down. There was no from my side or from his side. We was happy. We was just trying to finalise. But you know how boxing works sometimes. Politics get in the way.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that actually. Obviously, the political side, you've got this. Obviously, if you're going to face the winner, Askin Simmons, maybe in the summer this year, Chamberlain against Oglou, winner. Obviously, I mean, again, politically, is that fight possible in the future?
For myself, yeah, definitely. This is what boxing's about. I want to fight these guys. I want to fight all the guys that people know, and I want people to know me as the guy that fights them all and beats them all. As long as we can always agree, if both sides can agree and we're happy and they're happy, all these fights can happen.
Just finally for me, Luke, we had Big Tommy McCarthy on the show before Christmas. He said he was definitely open to a fight between you and himself. Is that something down the line, maybe with a title on the line, that could happen?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I don't know if you've seen that Simmons was ordered to fight. Askin was ordered to fight Simmons. You would have seen that they nominated myself and Tommy to go to purse bids for an eliminator for the British. But a nomination for that is, and they didn't make the right offers, so I politely declined. I'm the champion, the Commonwealth champion, and I believed I deserved a bit more than what was offered. So I'll continue my journey, keep going the way I'm going, and hopefully me and Tommy can get it on.
Hopefully so. That's something we look forward to in the future. Luke, we thank you very much for your time, for joining us once again at the Duke Watkins on Twitter. Any final messages or anything you want to say before you leave us?
Thank you for having me on. It was good to chat with you guys, and in the future, don't hesitate, contact me. I'm always willing to come on and talk boxing, and that's what I love.
Excellent. We appreciate that. All the best, Luke.
Take care.
Cheers,
Thanks, mate.
bye. Luke the Duke Watkins there, Commonwealth Cruiserweight champion. We shall follow his career with interest. It'd be good, a fight between him and Tommy McCarthy, I think. It's a shame he didn't come off the Irish title. That would have been a pretty decent scrap, Andy.
Yeah, I suppose, mate. I can get a couple of good domestic scraps can happen there. Cruiserweight. The thing I was just going to mention is actually I see Stevie Simmons. There was an article in one of the Edinburgh newspapers that he's talking about definitely about retiring end of this year. So I don't know if he loses this fight against Askins, he might even retire earlier.
Well, I think Askins has got the beating of Simmons, Andy. I don't know what you think. Me and Ozzy were talking about this off air. Askins has matured into a pretty decent fighter.
Simmons can get a bit emotional during fights and stuff like that. Just kind of he lets his hands go, just swings for the fences, and he can get caught sometimes. So Askins, as you say, he kind of like learned a bit better kind of boxing output as well. So I'm expecting Askins maybe to kind of stop him late. Actually,
Askin is an example of a fighter defeats not really shaping a fighter and making them better and stronger, I think, and the unbeaten record isn't always favourable. Friend of the pod, Richie Garner's on the call. Richie, great to have you back on. How you sounding?
Yeah, not so bad. Thanks for having me on, guys. Good to hear your voices.
No problem, Richie. Big 2018. Looking forward to a few of the fights that have been made already. Wilder, Ortiz, Groves, Eubank, Joshua, Parker, to name but a few. What are you looking forward to most that's been signed in 2018?
Listen, it's going to be an interesting year for the heavyweight division. We don't know what's going to be happening with Fury. I mean, there's lots of talk, but there's nothing really in concrete, is there? But it's one of the most exciting times for quite some while, I think, in relation to the heavyweight division. Obviously, we've got Groves, Eubank to look forward to. I think that's the one that I'm looking forward to most, if I'm being honest.
Go on, give us a winner, Richie. We've been debating it back and forward. Groves' experience, his punching power against Eubank's youth, but maybe a little lack of fundamentals, possibly. It's a tough one to pick. Who are you going for?
Definitely, I'm going for Groves. Too big, very strong, incredible punching power. Really impressed me when I saw him. I actually went to watch John Ryder against the Brit Basher. John's contest was okay. It was good to see him come through it unscathed. But if I'm being honest, I was quite shocked by the power that Groves has in both hands. Everything he throws, he's always in the pocket. He never really wastes a punch, and everything he throws is really explosive and does damage. I don't think anybody has really put it on Eubank like I think that he can.
Could be a big year for Welsh boxing as well. We've got Selby Warrington coming up. Anybody else we should look out for? You're obviously a coach and manager yourself over in Wales. Who should we be keeping an eye on from your country this year?
I think that Mo Pryor, Chris Jenkins, is going to really push Chris forward this year. Try to get him a British title shot. I think it's going to be an exciting year for Chris. I've got a lot of prospects who I'm bringing forward. I'm sad to say that Lee Churcher recently lost in relation to his IBF European title fight with Joe Mullender. I think it was quite an exciting fight, and I'm hoping Lee can come again because time is running out for him. But we're looking forward to a big 2018. Myself and Gary Lockett are working with Mo Pryor. There's going to be a lot of shows put on in Wales this year. We're going to try and run about 8 or 9 shows if possible. We're going to try and do one every 6 weeks so that we can really build on the talent base that we've established here.
I remember seeing a show, I think it was on a Tuesday or Wednesday evening, actually, a while back on the Welsh language channel, S4C. It was maybe one of the Sanigar shows. Is that something that could be, they maybe make a long-term investment in boxing? Were they just dipping their toes into the water? It's difficult to get TV, isn't it?
It is very difficult to get TV, but I mean, it's not impossible. And when we start to build these prospects up, hopefully we can do a deal with somebody and we can get these kids the exposure they deserve, because there's not a tremendous amount of exposure. And we discussed this the last time I came on for the Welsh lads. Mo Pryor does have some kind of deal with a TV company, but obviously I don't think we're going to be featured on that. He keeps that for his London shows. But we're kind of hoping once we establish these young lads, once we get them going, Gary's got some interesting kids, Meredith Thomas, I've got Jake Anthony, those two kids in particular have got a distinguished pedigree in relation to their amateur background. And if we push these kids forward and we get them out there, we get them some interesting fights, and they're explosive and they excite the public, then who knows? Perhaps we can secure something. I mean, the S4C deal is with Sanagar, but there's lots of exposure to be had. I mean, all kinds of TV channels now are expanding their interest in boxing, which is can only be good for us.
Richie, stay on the line with me a minute. I'm just going to quickly bring in one of our American contributors. Donny Baseball has jumped on the line. Donny, tell me about Errol Spence and Lamont Peterson last night. Pretty resounding beating for Spence in the end.
Boy, yeah, sure was. I mean, Errol Spence looked fantastic. No ring rust there, to be sure. The only thing that I think maybe people were giving Peterson a sliver of hope for was that maybe because Spence had been out of the ring for so long, maybe there was a chance that he wouldn't be at his best. But Spence surely put those doubts to waste, and he put in an amazing performance. I mean, it's kind of funny sometimes when you're watching the telecast and you almost get mad that Paulie Malignaggi says all the things that you're thinking, because then you don't have any analysis for the podcast. So, I was watching it and I was like, what a tremendous, control of the distance, the way he sort of was always in the proper range to hit Peterson with exactly the punches that he wanted to hit him with. When he wanted to keep him on the outside, he kept him away with the jab. When he wanted to get inside, or mid-range, I should say, maybe, he would go in there and he would touch the body and he would break him down. And you could even see that those body shots did pay dividends, because it started causing Peterson to drop his defense. And then he was, and then he always seems to find the opening. And he is a tremendous offensive machine. The one thing I could say about Spence is that he does get hit a fair bit. But what his supporters would say, and we had a little bit of a debate about this on the podcast chat last night, and one of our other American contributors, Gabe Lewis, was saying, well, that's because, he goes for it and, he wants to knock out opponents, especially ones that he knows he's capable of knocking out. And so maybe he gets a little bit more offensive than he otherwise would against a more dangerous opponent. But he gets he goes on offense because he wants to stop people. And he has stopped, I think, 10 of his, basically 10 out of his 10 of his last opponents. So, I thought it was a tremendous performance. But I do think, though, I still haven't seen Spence really have to contend with somebody who's really dangerous and not get hit. I personally think that, I think he's going to clearly beat Thurman. I guess we'll see how Thurman looks coming back after the elbow surgery, but based on what I've seen of both fighters, I think that Spence beats Thurman. To me, and I said this last week as well, I think that the fight to be made in boxing, not just in the welterweight division, but in boxing, generally speaking, even bigger than the Canelo-Golovkin rematch, in my opinion, actually, is Spence versus Terence Crawford. As soon as Crawford gets accustomed to the weight, but I don't think it'll take very long in doing so, because Crawford, when he was at 135, was rehydrating to about 150 or 151. And I don't know what he rehydrated to in his most recent junior welterweight fights. But basically, I think he does have the frame for it, but he's been basically starving himself to make 135. Then he was semi-starving himself to make 140. I actually think 147, I think Crawford will belong there. And once he gets his feet wet at the weight, that's the fight to be made. And I personally think, even though you can make a very credible case that Spence has faced more challenging opponents in the I do think that Crawford will be a little bit too skilled for him. I think that while Spence goes out there and says, like, let me figure out how to stop people, I think Crawford sometimes, I think he also goes out the same mentality, but he also thinks about, in a kind of Floyd Mayweather type of way, I think he thinks about what's the most efficient way I can stop this guy. And he'll southpaw, or he'll decide to use some movement, or he'll decide to go on the aggressive side. And I mean, he seems to be, Crawford seems to be a bit of a chameleon who can fight in so many different ways, and he's so versatile, and they can adapt to anything that you do. And I think that he's shown us more in that respect than Spence has. And if it came down to it, provided that Crawford had a fight or two to get wet at the weight, I think I would take Crawford in that fight. But I think that Spence is hittable. And he did look tremendous like that. I don't want to take anything away from his performance last night. But to me, Crawford is the man, and I think that he would show him up.
Thanks for that, Donny. Just to remind the listeners again, we have Richie Garner on the call, at Richie Shadow on Twitter. He is a Welsh boxing trainer and manager. If any of the panel have any questions for Richie, then I shall bring you in very shortly. Beforehand, Richie, did you manage to catch the Errol Spence Lamont Peterson fight last night?
Do you know what? I recorded it and I haven't had a chance to catch up with it yet. Unfortunately, I've been working today, so I haven't had a chance to catch up with it. But obviously, I know the outcome, and no, I would have picked it that way. But nevertheless, I mean, when you look at Spence's record, I mean, you know, his last 7 opponents have got like a combined 250 wins and maybe 10 losses. I mean, that's incredible. You know, he's a quality performer.
Has any of the panel got any questions for Richie before we move on and finish off the Spence Peterson undercard? Jump in now if you have.
Yeah, I had just one point to make about Easter Jr., and I said it the last time with the Shafikov. He was bubbling and turning into a decent prospect, and I was kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt after a kind of a lackluster performance against Shafikov. Like, even though I thought he'd done enough to win in the fight, but I think he needs to get away from Broner and the entourage. Like, there was times in the Fortuna fight last night where he's looking outside of the ring and talking to people outside of the ring. Like, he has the attributes to be a good fighter. Like, he's calling out Linares and that, and you know, with Linares, Lomachenko, and all them around that division, you know, his career could be over before it gets started. Like, I'd like to see him get away from Broner. Like, I don't know if that's get away from Broner and the entourage, basically.
Yeah, Rob makes a good point there, Richie, because I thought that myself. You've got Broner hanging around outside. You've got Mike Stafford in the ring. You've got all the same sort of cat hangers on and stuff. Have you ever had a problem with that? Obviously, at a lesser level, with like people turning your fighters' heads, bad influences hanging around the gym or in the corners that you've just wanted to get rid of. I mean, is that an issue at every level of the sport?
Do you know what? I wouldn't say, obviously, it's as prevalent at the level that I'm at, certainly not. But there's always somebody who thinks that they know better. I mean, just as an example, one of my younger fighters today was in my ear about when he's going to fight next, and we've had this conversation a couple of times. I'm bringing him along slowly. He's very very young. He's very talented. I don't want to rush him. I want to give him tests, taking it a step at a time, so that he essentially learns his trade. But at the same time, he's brought along, he progresses at an acceptable rate, because he's young and he's obviously a little bit naive and perhaps doesn't understand the business. I'm doing my best to protect him, but obviously he's got people in his ear. Oh, you should have been out 3 times last year. You should have been out 4 times last year. You know, whatever. I mean, you know, they people just don't understand that. A protective fighter, if you're going to move him along at a rate that is in his best interests, then you know you're going to have his best interests at heart. Because ultimately, although you know I certainly don't make a fortune from boxing, but ultimately, you know, it is a business, and I do my best to protect all of my fighters. Whether you're talking about Rob Studzinski, who I try to match at an acceptable level for his age, for his ability, or whether you're talking about Jake Anthony, who's you know, a young fighter who all the boxes before he can progress on the more dangerous fights. I've got their best interests at heart, but you are right to a certain extent. There is always somebody in the background who seems to think that they know better, and you know, with the greatest respect to the boxing public, because you've got to bear in mind these are the guys that pay they pay for the tickets, that pay the boxers' wages, that make these shows possible. I think that
and go ahead, sorry.
Everyone's got to understand that, you know, that their knowledge at boxing at this level is based on it as a sport, but in fact it's a business.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember a Belfast promoter, not mentioning any names, telling me about a young ticket seller he had a few years ago, and he was constantly getting rang up by the family, like saying, why is he not fighting this? Why is he not fighting that? You've got other guys in your stable fighting for titles, and why is he not fighting? It was a constant thing, whereas he knew that the kid wasn't ready, and he was trying his best to manoeuvre him, but they were in his ear all the time, and, you know, it can be a bit of a problem. I suppose your phone be ringing red hot, Richie, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I had a work experience girl follow me around work recently, and she was shocked at how much my phone was going. I mean, I'm managing about 10 guys and I'm training about 7. Some of them I manage and train, and literally my phone is going constantly. It doesn't bother me because you know, I'm in love with the game. I'm in this for the love of the game, not for the money. I mean, Christ, if I was in it for the money, I'd be living in a poorhouse. But certainly she was shocked by the amount of attention I have to give to the boxers, and you know, it's just a massive commitment. But as I say, there's always somebody out there. There's always some casual out there. With the greatest respect, I'm not a massive fan of that term, but there's always a casual out there who's in a boxer's ear who thinks they know better. But as far as like hanger-oners go, people who are, you know, on the periphery, you know, kind of constantly taking change out of a fighter's pocket, I'm not at the level where, you know, I have to deal with that. And, you know, but fingers crossed, maybe one day. It'd be a nice problem to have.
It certainly will be. I remember Thomas Rowan, the matchmaker, telling me once the only way to get out of boxing as a millionaire is to come in as a billionaire. And we shall leave it there, Richie. We always appreciate you coming on and joining us, and you're welcome anytime. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks, Richie.
Richie Garner there at Richie Shadow on Twitter. If you want to follow him, he's been on before and he always speaks very eloquently about the game. Another person who speaks very eloquently about the game is you, Donny. What do you want to say?
Well, I was just thinking that when you're talking about Broner as a hanger-on to Easter and all of that, it just struck me that I think... Hello?
No, Andy just left. We're still here.
No, I was going to say, it just sort of struck me that I think, you know what, really, and I don't even like Teddy Atlas that much, particularly as a commentator, but really, Broner could use somebody like that, couldn't he? I mean, in other words, when you have somebody who's been with you your whole life or who's been with you for a substantial amount of time, they sort of indulge your, you know, a lot of your flaws, and they're willing to accept them or something. Whereas I think that if he was with somebody like Atlas would just be like, get these motherfuckers out of my gym right now, or I'm going to quit and I'm not going to train you, or something like that.
Mike Stafford's not tough enough, is he, Donny? Because he's happy to go along with the ride and take the paydays, I think, that Broner brings. He should be shoving a firework up his hole.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, remember in I don't know if it was Rocky 1 or number 3. Remember when the girls are coming in for Rocky's autograph, and he's like, "Get your chicken asses out of here!" You know, but like, you know, I mean, like, in other words, the thing is that a guy who's been with Broner for several years or whatever doesn't have the nuts to do that, because, you know, he's worried, like you said, Steve, about losing the payday and about damaging the relationship. Whereas if you go with a new trainer who's a strict disciplinarian, you know, they're not going to give a fuck. I mean, they're just gonna say, hey, look, this is the way it is, and it's my way or the highway. And you know what? That would really bring the best out of Adrien Broner. He needs somebody to train him who's a son of a bitch. And Atlas fits that characterization.
Donny Baseball there, everybody. Go ahead, Dave.
With Mike Stafford, I mean, I don't know. I don't know his routine well enough. I don't know enough about him really to determine this. But is it possible it's not just greed and like not wanting to stand up to Broner, but maybe he just doesn't know what to do, or maybe he is just, because he's been with Broner for a long time, and Broner's had the same flaws this whole time. Way back in the day, even when Broner was an up-and-comer, I think it was against Quintero, he lost that fight. And he lost it because he was a flat-footed clown with
no work rate.
I think you mean Ponce de Leon, Dave.
Ponce de Leon fight he's talking about.
No, it was that too, but before that, even
Oh.
younger. Yeah, I think it was Quintero. It was some guy who just he I think
It was an 8-rounder or something like that. It was on an open air show.
That was a close fight,
But that was the last time that guy fought. I thought that guy won that fight, and Broner, he was shown up. I mean, the guy was not at a level where Broner should be losing to if he's going to be a world level guy, and he still has those flaws. Same stuff. It's just he doesn't work enough and he doesn't move enough.
And it's bad on Robert Easter Jr. when Broner's your mentor. You know what I mean? Because like you're looking at guys who look up to Floyd like Gervonta and Adrien Broner, but like they're not looking at the dedication or the hard work. Excuse the kind of the cliche, but like Floyd really trained. You know what I mean? He really trained his ass off. He was a disciplinarian. You know what I mean? He looks flashy and he throws the money about him, got a million birds and all that. Like, but the boys get a world title, like, and they think that's it. You know what I mean? So it's a pity for Easter Jr. Like 5'11" for a lightweight he's a freakishly big guy for the weight. He has all the attributes, but it's just a bit. When I saw him in the second round, looking over and talking to Broner out of the ring, and they're having a conversation, I said, forget about this guy. It's going nowhere. Like,
yeah, Adrien Broner is like, he's like a disease. I mean, in other words, banish him. You know what I mean? Fucking quarantine that motherfucker. I mean,
you're fucking right. Donnie and Dave, listen, how far back did I go when I said I exposed this guy as an absolute fraud? How many years am I going back?
Actually, Andy, I'm going to totally shit on what you just said. You actually said, and you said in horror, you said, I'm so worried, and this is the week before the Maidana fight, and you can go back to the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and you know what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
You said, I'm so afraid that Adrien Broner will retire in his career undefeated.
Yep. that was genuine fear by it, because it was just because it was like people like, for example, Sky and that, they're really hyping him up as like the heir to Floyd Mayweather and stuff like that. He's living his life like Floyd Mayweather, but everybody knew watching him. He was absolutely just the way he was conducting himself, and it's just. That Chino fight, by the way, Chino fucking took it in there, extra fans as a result of that, hardcore fans and stuff, guys who would actually see if I seen Chino right now, by the way, I'd fucking buy him all the beer he wanted.
Oh, as would I, by the way, and that video of him doing fishing by way of pistol, that was classic. Obviously, he is basically just taking the money from his 2 Floyd fights and has retired back to Argentina and is enjoying his life. And you know what? That's actually really the way we'd like to see most fighters go out of the sport.
Exactly.
Make a lot of money, retire while they still have, their all of their faculties, and and retire young. And he seems to be quite happy with himself. I'm very happy with him for that. But the thing is that nobody ever predicted, including you, including me, including anybody, that Maidana would ever beat Broner. I mean, at that particular time, the hype around Broner was so intense. It was just unbelievable. But getting back to the point, though, about Easter, yes, he does need to get rid of the entourage. And also, I mean, one of the things, just as a technical point, he doesn't throw any fucking combinations. He throws single shots all the time. Ironically, just like Broner, right? Who never throws combinations either, and who always waits for everybody to, like, get off an entire salvos with a punch.
So fuck Mike Stafford stands then.
Yeah. So maybe there's something there to that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it just in other words, I'm sure he's quite capable of it, but he only throws in single shots. And if you've got somebody who's putting it on you, I mean, that's just simply that strategy is not going to work. And so, basically, Easter needs to, I mean, and I know that they're from the same area of the country, so it obviously makes sense that they're going to be friends and they're going to have, the trainer in common, and they're going to have all this stuff. But in general, though, if I'm Robert Easter, I'm thinking to myself, do I really want to be Adrien Broner? I mean, he's not even the kind of person you want to associate yourself with, because, I mean, it's one thing if you're trying to associate yourself with Floyd like Broner was. But, I mean, Floyd is Floyd. But, I mean, nobody wants to be Adrien Broner. Adrien Broner is the type of guy who has all the talent in the world, but who's fucking blew it.
Floyd watered down his Broner. Broner watered down his Easter. And Easter watered down his Gervonta Davis. That's what you've got right at the bottom.
Yeah, he's a poor man's Broner.
A poor man's Floyd.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, Donny, given your recent track record, the best way to deal with Broner is maybe, you know, that scene in Pulp Fiction where they get your man Ving Rhames down in the basement, isn't it?
We got to get the gimp in.
Get the gimp in. Right, let's move on.
Last week, Steve. Thank you.
Sorry, I should have left that dead and buried, shouldn't I? Right, we'll leave that in the basement with the gimp and Bruce Willis, I think it was. Right, Smido, back to more savoury matters. Anything on this undercard that excited you? Easter Junior, Fortuna, Marcus Browne was knocking out this sort of rubbery. What?
No.
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
Zed's dead, baby. Nothing at all, Smido. No.
No.
Okay, Ozzy, anything for you?
Fight this year, and that was Spence and Peterson.
You're with friends, Smido. We'll come to you with friends. Don't worry. Ozzy, Marcus Browne, Francis, and Tattoo. And Tattoo didn't inspire me with confidence when I saw him limbering up. He had a bit of a Latif Coyote look about him. Only 4 knockouts. Not a great puncher. A bit of a rubbery look. Sort of did his arms flailed when he got hit. It wasn't going to be his night, I don't think.
No, never. I'm just looking at the guy's record now, and I mean it's AIDS, isn't it? There's just no quality on it whatsoever. Yeah, it was one of them. He did what he had to do, and I think that Marcus Browne's jumping up the WBO rankings now.
Yeah, he isn't half, mate. Chances are he's going to go to number 1 because I've noticed Gvozdik's fighting for interim WBC title, so that might take him out the WBO rankings. So that would leave Browne number 2, possibly number 1, and then Yarde number 3 or number 2. And based off that performance last night, okay, it wasn't much with that knockout, but I'm expecting, if A2 get it on, I'm expecting fireworks with that one. Like,
yeah, I can't see that happening personally yet.
No, I don't see it myself. Like,
no. I mean, you know the hold Frank has with the WBO. If he wants something to be forced, it happens, and if he doesn't, it goes a long way away. There's regular times where his fighters stay at 3. And, you know, if eliminators get made and moved around them and things like that. But, no, I saw the knockout. And, I mean, it's all you needed to see, really, wasn't it? It's one of them. It can be exciting, can't he? He's got the power. Will he challenge any of the more established fighters? I'm not too sure, but he's certainly one to watch. And, like Andy said, if him and Yarde do get it on, maybe further down the line it will be fireworks because they can both pack a punch.
Does Frank Warren have some sort of blackmail type of naked pictures of Paco Bar Carcel? I mean, in other words, like, why does Warren have so much influence in the WBO? They name him as the promoter of the year literally every year. I mean, in other words, why is that connection so strong?
He's hooked himself on from the beginning, hasn't he? He's the one who's paying them. He's happy to give them money, so they've built up the relationship over time. Yep. You know, you do repeat contract, isn't it?
2 things. The WBO was always classed as a kind of European organisation to the world title. So European, British organisations or promoters, and plus as well as that wee antidote, the Warren Boxing Organisation.
Bob Arum loves it as well, doesn't he?
Oh, aye. Wee Bob organisation.
Yeah, it's the same with other promoters though, isn't it? Eddie Hearn's a WBA man, isn't he? Anything he wants, he goes to WBA. Like I said, he got Crawler to 2 world title shots with the WBA.
Even got Burns one at 140 as well.
Oh, he did, yeah. Yeah, so all promoters have got the favoured ones, and Frank's been with Frank and Bob Arum have had the WBO for bloody hell years, wasn't it? Because Frank used to be a WBU man.
That's right. And then Sky said they weren't going to show that shit anymore, didn't they?
Yeah, so he got on the WBO, and I think he was awarded the WBO's Promoter of the Year last year.
Yeah, the WBO came into prominence, I seem to remember. One of the first champions who held it for a long time, if I'm rightly remembering this, was Michael Moorer down at light heavyweight. He made about 12 defences. And you look at some of the names he fought during those 12 defences, the likes of Danny Stonewalker. I mean, it really was a shit fest, but they were only just getting established then.
There's talking about Carl Frampton actually fighting for the WBO mandatory position in his next fight.
Yeah, that's right. Me and Dominic were talking about that the other night, actually.
Eubank Senior fought some dross as well when he was WBO champion. Jesus.
I think they all have, haven't they?
One of the worst ones, Cleverly. That was real bad.
Liam Smith's defences and the guy he beat to win the title.
Yeah.
That was
Liam Smith.
And some of Scott Harrison's as well. Remember Samuel Kabady, Andy?
Oh, fuck. I mean, some of Harrison's were pretty brutal. So was some of Kalzagi's earlier ones, Branko Sobot or Sabot.
I Sobot the robot. I forgot about
the Croatian
him,
guy was his first defence. And I remember the Brazilian guy that he beat before he fought Eubank for the vacant title, who, remember, Eubank had to come in for Cruiserweight in 2 weeks' notice or something like that. Had to dump something like 20, 30 pounds or something before the fight. Who else? Well, I mean,
the WBO made Kalzagi fight Mario Voigt twice, didn't they? Because you remember, Kalzagi signed to fight Brian McGee in Belfast, and they even got to like the final press conference close to the weigh-in, and then the Germans said no, the WBO are going to have to pull this, and they had to pull the whole card because he had to fight Voigt again instead for a second time.
I remember the first fight, he iced the guy with a overhand left hand, or a overhand left hook or whatever it was, but he knocked him out in something like 30 seconds or whatever it was. Big, I remember the guy, a big, tall, fucking blonde haired, fucking stiff as a porn star's cock, and that just gets caught with the chin in the air. As you say, how the hell they then managed to fight himself back at the mandatory after what, 4 fights or something like that?
Something like, do you remember Tucker Pudwill as well?
Oh, aye. He was meant to be fighting Thomas Tate before that fight, was it? No, it was not meant to be Thomas Tate was training for him, and he pulled out the fight for some sort of unification.
Yeah.
And Pudwill was brought in. Oh, he was fucking awful.
Tate, I think, was IBF at the time. Go ahead, Donny.
No, I just wanted to ask this question. So, why are the 4 sanctioning bodies, the WBC, the WBA, the IBF, and the WBO, why are those the 4 sanctioning bodies that we all accept are the, like, quote-unquote legitimate sanctioning bodies that, award titles? From my understanding, and I could be wrong here, but what I understand is that those are the 4 sanctioning bodies that the International Boxing Hall of Fame regards as real titles, quote unquote.
Well, it's because they're the oldest. They're the most established.
WBC, WBA they're like the oldest. I think they're like the WBA's first one, 63 or 64, and the WBC came after that. IBF came in the 80s, and then WBO came in the late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s, I think it was about 88, 89, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
they've established themselves over time, haven't they? I mean, it's as simple as that. They've hung around, and fighters have started to fight for their belts, and they've gained legitimacy over a period of years. Donny, it's like you've been on the pod for 5 years now, and we'll take you seriously.
Fair enough.
Is that it? We move on?
No, well, I was going to say, I think, though, actually, in the near future, I think the IBO probably may, and really they shouldn't, only because I don't want to see 5 sanctioning bodies, but they're probably the closest among all of the competitors to being regarded as
the thing is, the fighter makes the belt. So, for example, you got like the IBO title. Take that for an example, right? A load of fighters over the years who are absolute bums have fought for that title. I mean, Quinlan fought Eubank for it, I think. But if you look at it, Lennox Lewis held that title. Gary Golovkin's held that title. Vladimir Klitschko
Ricky Hatton fought Manny Pacquiao for the IBO title.
Manny Pacquiao's held that title. So, it says it's the fighter itself who holds it. If he's happy to pay the sanction fees, so fucking be it. I mean, I remember Cotto fighting for the WBB belt against somebody, actually, some white fucking WWE looking fucking title. But what I'm saying is, a lot of these fighters, they will make the belt. You then get fighters who need the belt to actually legitimize themselves in the sport. So, without the belt, they can't really make the payday. Like, take for example, Truax. I mean, is he going to get a fucking payday elsewhere if he didn't have that IBF belt? No, he wouldn't. He would get maybe $20,000-$30,000 for turning up on site or whatever. But the point of the matter is, the champion makes the belts. If you go back in time and stuff, you got the WBC, WBA, the 2 most established. The Japanese boxing scene, they kept it. The 2 titles, WBC, WBA, were the only 2 belts they were allowed to be contested in Japan until the last 5-6 years. They started recognising WBO and IBF so we can get more unification fights and stuff. But that's just a wee bit kind of background to that.
They've put the IBO belt on the Joshua and Parker poster. So they're actually trying to market and saying, oh, yeah, we've got the IBO belt on the line as well. But Andy's right, it depends who's got it. But Frankie Gavin's boxing for the IBO welterweight world title against some no-mark from like Zimbabwe or something like that. And that's what I can't take serious about. This is classed to justify this is a world title, when in reality, It's utter rubbish. It's utter rubbish. It's all on. I completely agree with Andy. It's all on the fighter. Like Golovkin had it, and he walks it out to the ring. Klitschko had it for years and years. But then, like I said, the other ones are pretty naff. But that's saying if you take a look at the rankings, they're probably one of the better set of rankings compared to the other organisations. They're not all like holding,
And not only
like
that, they
fringe
do have
belts
good
and things like
rankings.
that.
The rankings are legit. The only thing is with the IBO is that because they know that they're not on par with the other four, they don't have any mandatories. So.
See the IBO title at heavyweight. So Brian Nielsen won it in 1996, right? He lost it in 98. Lennox Lewis then picked it up and held it until 2003. Klitschko then picked up from 06 right through until he got beat off Fury. Fury then got stripped out, obviously, and then it was put vacant again for the Joshua fight. So that's the reason why he's got that one. But again, as I say, a guy like Joshua could afford having all those belts to pay the sanction fees. It's the same with Klitschko. Klitschko was getting mega millions when he was fighting regularly in Germany and stuff like that. That's the reason why he held all the belts, was happy to pay the sanction fees. Whereas other fighters, I forget who, one of the fighters that Klitschko fought was refusing to pay one of the sanction fees, so he didn't get the fight for the title, or the title was taken off the line, or whatever it was. But again, as I say, it's a mindfuck. If we could get back to 2 belts, it would make it suitable. But
fighters making a belt, and to be fair to Eubank Senior, I could kind of see what he was going with that Mickey Mouse title for Eubank Junior, because a lot of people in the 90s thought that WBO belt was a Mickey Mouse title. If you look back at some of the fights, some of the classic HBO fights now, they don't really acknowledge the IBF or the WBO title. Like, so in a way, Eubank Senior was trying to kind of mimic his own career with picking up that IBO strap for Eubank Junior. But anyway, we're getting off the
No, but you're right. If you go back in history and stuff, there was always dispute saying. So, for example, if you go back to like the 20s and 30s, you would have like a title like the British. Britain might recognise a ex-fighter for the world title, whereas you might have a fighter in America who's maybe by the New York Athletic Commission, their class is the American version of the world title holder and stuff like that. So there's always been this fucking problem. Who is the real man? Who's got the claimant to the title and stuff like that? It's always been a problem.
The final point on this, Rob, I don't know if you remember this or not, there was an Irish fighter back in the 80s, Sean O'Grady. He was a WBA champion. I think he got stripped in and around a Mike McCallum fight or something like that. So his dad, Pat, who was also his manager, went out and invented his own title, the World Athletic Association WAA title, and Sean fought for that. So that was a nice story.
I was ranked in the top 15 for that, man.
Mandatory defence. Right, we've got off topic a little bit. Let's move on, close out the weekend stuff. Anthony Mundane knocked out Tommy Browne in the second round. Mundane's back, baby. He's making an assault on world level. If you're not listening to us, you could be at a show in Hungary. This afternoon, they are running a 23-fight extravaganza. Yes, I was looking on BoxRec earlier. 23 fights. That might go on for just as long as this pod at this rate. Smido, I've got a question for you from Emily Rogerson, friend of the pod. She says, what are the top 5 fights that can be made this year? I'm glad you're back on as well, says Emily. But what are the top 5 fights that can be made this year? I'm going to say Golovkin Canelo is the first one. Smido, what are the other 4?
Fucking hell, you're asking a lot of me here. Right, Spence Thurman, because we're not going to get Spence Crawford, so I'll go with Spence Thurman, Fury and Joshua, which I think can be made this year, actually. Or Joshua Wilder, so I'll count that as one. Canelo Golovkin, as you mentioned. Anyone down at Superfly, any of the winners want to fight each other. I think, has Estrada been made against Rungazai?
Yes, it's on February the 24th, off the top of my head.
Right, well, that can be one of my wishes come true already, then, because I think that's an excellent fight. No messing about down at Super Flyweight. And then the other one, I don't care. Yeah, I'm just too much of a casual nowadays, Steve. I think the final of the Cruiserweight is going to be excellent. Probably something we would all wish for anyway. The semi-finals aren't far off. I think Groves Eubank's a great fight that's already been made this year. And hopefully, we get to see Callum Smith found out in the final against Groves or Eubank. So already we've got the foundations for a very good year. I hope we don't see Pacquiao again. I hope we don't see Mayweather again. I hope the MMA boys piss off, particularly McGregor. I hope Malignaggi don't fight again. I think we're all set for a decent enough year. Kovalev's Hopefully going to get some tests to see if he's still got it. I hope Adonis gets beat. That's kind of my wish list for the year.
Well, we've seen Ward go, we've seen Klitschko go. You want to see the end of Mayweather and Pacquiao and sort of put that era to bed?
Yeah, definitely, because we've got the flag bearers who, at this stage, don't appear scared to fight each other. The likes of Spence, who's talking a good game, Crawford, who's talked and boxed a good game so far in terms of fighting people. Joshua can also go in that kind of category as well, particularly as he's fought Klitschko. Canelo and Golovkin have already done it. It'd be great to see that again. I was watching that actually the other night. I still don't know how much. So did the woman manage to score the fight 118 to Canelo?
Yeah.
Was that right? Wow.
118, 110, yeah.
Wow.
Adelaide Bird.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember because she sits right in front of the camera. She's right in view of the camera. Yeah, but I was watching that the other night with no sound on. But yeah, I think we've got, it's reinvigorated me to watch more boxing this year, particularly more than I did last year.
CG Ross has come out of retirement for the Golovkin Canelo under second fight. Adelaide Bird apparently has got the second job as well.
I think we could have a judging panel full of women. That would be excellent.
Yeah, listen, mate. Listen, you can't assume they're women nowadays. It could be a man.
Yeah. Do you know what I was thinking of?
Careful, Smitho.
Oh, here we go. Smitho's gender fluid now. Smitho, you started the pod as a man. Who knows what you'll end up on?
He's a host. You need to send him away for some kind of... What do you call it again? What's the training called
Gender
again?
realignment.
No, what's it called? Equalities training. Send him away for that.
Oh, yeah, you need to go on...
in this world, though, that's gone mad, wouldn't it be funny if we had a report that, like, abuse within boxing, kids as young as 8 forced to go in the ring and punch each other. I mean, it's an investigation waiting to happen, really.
Yeah, Smitho, seriously though, right? What happens if a fella says that he's a woman and then wants to go and fight Chantel Cameron? No, I'm being serious now. What would happen?
Well,
what would you do?
Wait, Steve.
Close the fucking doors. Switch the lights off.
Steve.
What?
Your question is already answered, but it's not answered in boxing. It's actually answered in MMA.
Go on then.
Where there was a massive controversy about Fallon Fox, who is a man who transgendered to a woman, and who actually was in a fight, I think in 2014 or 15, where he broke another woman's ocular bone, and broke her nose and broke her jaw and totally fucked her up. And she's gotten, or he or she gotten death threats. They've gotten death threats, and it's been a big controversy. But yes, basically, I mean, obviously, nobody really cares about the opposite situation where a female transitions to a male. I mean, in other words, if they really want to fight a man, okay, we'll have at it, because you're obviously at a physical disadvantage. But if a male...
But the question is, Donny, the question is this: do they do anal?
Do they do 7-year anal though?
It's funny. It's funny that you bring that up, because it's a hot topic at the moment, because it's happened in it's bound to happen in boxing, because it's happened in MMA. She broke that girl's orbit bone. She
fucking cyborg. Look at the state of her.
And her argument was that she lost to a woman, therefore she wasn't at an advantage. But that really wasn't what it was. She just wasn't that skilled. She was physically superior to the girl she was beating.
Yeah, she had no ground game, and that's why Ashley Evans Smith schooled her.
Yeah, but the weightlifting champion, there's murders this week, because somebody who's done the same thing in the weightlifting world has gone and beaten the women's world record by 40 pounds.
Right, let's move on. The Asylum asking the big questions, as always. Let's preview... What?
Can I just throw out some fights that nobody mentioned yet for the 5 best fights of 2018?
Go on quickly then.
Very quickly. I would like to see Sarungavesi. Now, you said who's he fighting?
Estrada.
So he's fighting Estrada. So I'd like to see the winner of that fight the winner of Inoue versus Quadras. I think that would be a fair, a fair outcome.
Inoue's way up on weight now, so you can take him out of the equation.
Inoue's gone up to Burnett's weight. What's that, bantamweight, isn't it? I think.
Wait.
118, yeah, 118.
Yeah, he's moving up. He's not fighting Quadras, I don't think.
Well, then fine, do it at a catchweight then. But I mean, basically, well, what it comes down to is I want to see Inoue versus Estrada.
Looks like there's just the three of us. Donny's suggestions have got him kicked off, Andy.
I see that there. As I say, I mentioned a couple of weeks back about Inoue. There's Donny back on the line. On you go, Donny.
No, I just said I want to see Inoue versus Estrada. That's what I really want to see. And actually, Inoue versus Rungavesi, but because I mean the way that he took out Chocolatito was amazing.
You've probably more chance of seeing Inoue against Rungvisai. I think you've got more chance of that fight happening because Rungvisai's really been at super flyweight his whole career, so he's probably got enough girth about him to take the weight up. But Estrada, he fought at elite flyweight. I think he's at his ceiling actually.
Probably. And the other fight that I want to see is obviously, of course, Joshua versus Wilder. But actually, really, I think that we have a chance, in my opinion. I think that before the end of the year, we do have a chance to see Joshua versus Fury, because I truly believe that Fury is going to want to get at Joshua before Wilder does, because there's a very good chance that Wilder could potentially knock him out, because Wilder has tremendous power. And I think that Fury is afraid to see all those tens of millions of pounds just go up into thin air and go into smoke. So there's that.
Golovkin-Canelo's a fight that needs to get made.
What's that?
Canelo-Golovkin's a fight that needs to get made.
Well, it's already made.
No, that's in principle, but there's nothing been officially announced yet.
Yeah, needs to be signed on.
But I've heard that they're agreed to, quote unquote, like all significant terms for.
Yeah, but agreement isn't a fucking signature on the contract, though, mate.
We need an announcement, don't we?
Oh yeah, of course we do. But I mean, I think they're just going to delay that just for promotional purposes. And then I'd like to see Badu Jack. Well, I know Andre Ward is theoretically retired, but I'd love to see Badu Jack versus Ward. But if we can't get that, I'd like to see Badu Jack versus Kovalev. And then in addition, I'd like to see Mikey Garcia versus Lomachenko. And I would also love to see
Quack.
Donny, talking to Garcia, his fight with Lipinets has been put back a month because Lipinets has hurt his hand.
Quack.
Oh, I was not aware of that. I didn't know.
Yep.
And then last but not least, of course, as I said earlier, Spence versus Crawford. Those are my five.
Thank you, Donny. Right, let's move on to next week's stuff then. We've got in Canada, Zab Judah is still fighting. Yes, he's had nearly 60 fights. He's going in against Noel Rincon. Also on that card, a beautiful name here, light heavyweight, Zach Many Wounds. Hopefully not picking up too many wounds in his 4-rounder against Julian Schmidt.
I assume he's Native American?
I would imagine so, Dave, to be honest with you. Right, Dave, while you've got yourself unsheathed, go in deep on this card. In the Forum Inglewood, Oscar De La Hoya Promotions, Jorge Linares defending his WBA lightweight title against Merquito Gesta, yes, the very one, and Lucas Matisse returning for the vacant WBA welterweight title against Tewa Kiram. No idea either. What can you tell us about this, Dave?
It's poor. It's not good. Oscar's really struggles with getting names. It's better, actually, when he goes overseas with his guys, because I think in Europe you have some solid names, even if they're not always British. And at least you can get some money for those fights. You can get them exposure overseas. I think Linares in particular has loved this time he spent against Luke Campbell. Well, Luke Campbell actually gave him a tough fight, to be fair. But Linares must have loved that time he spent with Krolla, because 2 fairly easy wins. He beat him up, got paid well, got adored by a lot of British fans, well, aside from the ones that probably gave him death threats. But I mean, it's easy money. So I think that Oscar should probably look into more overseas fights, because his stable is just terrible since all of them moved to Heyman. At least until
cherry picked.
At least until more. Yeah, this is not a good card. It's a shame.
Ozzy, I'm looking down this Tewa Kiram's record. He's 38-0 with 28 knockouts. It sounds really impressive on paper, but I'm genuinely struggling to recognise any other names. In 2015, he beat Kaiser Mabuza, who had 14 losses on his record, was never that great in the first place. He was ancient by that point. Same said for
Kendall Holt.
For Randy Suiko. Did he beat Kendall Holt, did he?
Mabuza did, yeah. he beat him up.
Aye, but the point being, Mabuza was ancient by the time he got in with his Tewa Karam, who's 38-0 with 28 knockouts. Just bringing in Aussie, what do you think about the opponents? I don't really know a lot about either of them.
They're both unacceptable, to be honest. How this guy can fight for a version of the world title is a joke. Just 2 fights ago, he was fighting for the PABA welterweight title against Vijender Kumar, who was a debutant. Now, I know nothing about Vijender Kumar, but he's only had the 1 fight. He lost, and that was it. So, and now that's propelled him. He then boxed Ramadani Shari for no title, and then he's wound up here. He looks like a guy who's never boxed out of Thailand, and we've seen it before. Do you remember on the Froch Groves card at Wembley? Jamie McDonald boxed a guy called something like Tambiteng Naratchawat, and
yes,
and he had a huge, I think he was like an undefeated record, but he'd never boxed out of Thailand. He came over here and he was garbage. And they build these.
He came to fight, Cougs. He came to fight.
Well, yeah, if you listen to Eddie Hearn. And then the Linares one, it's really disappointing that you see these talks broke down with Terry Flanagan, Garcia, things like that. And it just doesn't really do anything for me. I mean, when he boxed Campbell, I wasn't too fussed about that, but it turned out to be a very good fight. And I can't see this Gester causing any problems whatsoever to Linares. And again, I think it's the time where we need to start seeing these guys jump in with each other, because otherwise you end up losing these fights and you look back and you think, what could have been? I do wonder if Linares may even make a step up to 140, go and get another title. Flanagan was talking about that. He's still open to that. Garcia's at 10 stone as well. So there could be a chance where you're going to see Linares and even Robert Easter Jr., he's definitely big enough, both of them to make the step up and put up to 140. But in terms of going back to both opponents, both very, very poor. Not interested. I see Briedis Prescott's getting another run out on the further down the undercard in an 8-rounder. Yeah, so he's there. But yeah, 2 very poor opponents, and you would expect 2 relatively comfortable wins for the home fighters.
Oscar really needs to invest in signing some fresh talent. I mean, look, at the time of the 2012 Olympics, I said all these American guys are going to do better in the pros, and look how well it's turned out. I mean, not everyone has been a big success, but look how well it's turned out comparatively for Al Heyman signing up pretty much all of the Olympic team of 2012. Errol Spence now is the top welterweight in the world. Marcus Browne got a win last night too. He's still undefeated.
He lost Egypt though, and he got a gift.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Dominic Brazil. I mean, he's made some money. He's not great, but he's made some good money for him. And also that other guy, he's been an overachiever. The guy who fought Rashi Warren. Yeah, that guy's
Gausha was Gausha on the team as well.
Yeah, Gausha too, but he's not good. He's okay.
In fairness to Ramadani, very fast. Thank you. Here all week.
Friggin' hell. Right. Donny, I'm just looking down Makito Gester's record here, a Filipino based in San Diego, pretty much like the other fella whose name I've already forgotten, Kiram. He's got a few wins over ancient names, Ivan Valle, Martin Honorio, lost a 2012 IBF lightweight title fight with Miguel Vasquez, and he also fought to a split draw with Carlos Molina. The most interesting thing, Donny, on Gester's record is that in 2011, he knocked out Gennaro Trazancos. Now, who's that, you might say, Donny? Well, nerd alert, I remember all the bullshit information. Trazancos was the man who fought Edwin Valero when Valero was 18-0 with all first-round knockouts, and Trazancos extended Valero into the second round. So there's a bit of trivia for you, Donny. Back to the card.
Knowledge there, mate. Fucking hell.
Yeah, that's Steve is the Rain Man of... definitely fought Bolero. Yeah, fought Bolero. But no, I mean, so yeah. And also, by the way, I think that's Mercedo Hesta. Yeah, I think it's a soft G, as far as I understand. But anyways, yeah, I don't really have any opinions on this fight. I think he'll win.
Thanks, Donny. Smido, anything to say about this card?
Not really, pal.
Thanks, Smido. Andy, anything to say about this card?
I suppose I can just weigh in with the comments about the Thai fighter. I think he's like the PABA title, as Ozzy mentioned. I think it's some sort of affiliate to the WBA. He's made something like 20 defences of that title, so that's probably the reason why he's got himself up to the #1 position and stuff. Again, with these Thai fighters, and that, I mean, okay, they fight a lot of debutants, but some of these guys at the fight, they're like, they're trained kickboxers and Muay Thai fighters and stuff. So they are tough guys, just in a sense of speaking. Is, boxing's totally different, obviously. So some of these guys just didn't match up. For example, I mean, he fought a guy in his debut.
Andy, they fight these debutants or whatever, but they're fighting them like every 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, in other words, they just fight guys that are in their pro debut or whatever, like every 2 weeks just to get a paycheck. But then, like, they fight like the legit fights every 2 or 3 months, which is actually a hell of a lot more active than any Al Heyman fighter that you can probably think of.
Aren't a lot of the debutants like from a kickboxing background, maybe even at a world level?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can imagine some of these guys. I would need to go and get the names again, but there's a couple of guys that I've watched. Ryan Scala will be able to tell you even better, actually. Some of these guys, they will be world champions at fucking Muay Thai or kickboxing, so they've turned over to boxing. I don't know if it's because there's more money in it, maybe they're more active or stuff. I really don't know. But yeah, again, I'm not proclaiming this guy's going to beat Matisse. I think he might be tough. Again, Matisse was going to retire a couple of years back. It's just recently he's decided to kind of come back again. So you just don't know where he's at. So vacant title fight, you just don't know if Matisse's, if half of them is actually retired. I wouldn't bet against this guy. Maybe getting a wee W here. But again, he's a. The thing is, Matisse is a golden boy fighter, so he's no way he's going to get the nod. Linares, I don't know if he's going to stop this guy. This guy's tough. Like, he's never been stopped before, so I really don't know if he's going to stop him. But whatever happens, I think with Garcia's fight against Lipinet's been off now. I think come back down in weight. You said you're a lightweight. Come back down in weight and get that fucking Linares fight made. I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I think Lomachenko's holding off until Linares and Garcia have actually kind of made up their minds what they're going to be doing. But Linares, Garcia, if the Lomachenko fight's not going to happen, Linares, Garcia, get it made next.
Garcia Lipinets is on, and it's been changed from February the 10th to March the 10th, that's all.
Oh, so it's been, right, okay, so that fight's still going to happen then.
And Andy, I mean, just to be clear, I mean, I think you were the guy that tweeted this out this week. Did you tweet out the poll about whether, and I can't do justice to the Thai fighters' names in the same way that Steve Wellings can, but Pongsaklek Wonjongkam.
Yeah.
Wonjongkam. Good fighter, Wonjongkam in his day, yeah.
Two-time world flyweight champion.
And he said, does Wonjongkam belong in the Hall of Fame? Thoughts of the panel, I just was curious.
That guy was pound for pound rated at one time.
Yeah,
exactly.
He lost to Daisuke Naito, didn't he, I think?
I think he's going to pull his record up.
Didn't Naito take his title off him after he'd made a ridiculous amount of defences? I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember. He lost his title to, it was a Sonny Boy Yarrow, I think it was, but then, or it might have been, he won it back off Koki Kameda, I think at one point. He was
lineal, right, Andy?
He was lineal champ twice, I believe. And I think he's second term. I think he was something like 8 years as champion. And a lot of people gave him shit because, as we've just been mentioning there, he was fighting these debutants and stuff. And then in between, as Donnie mentioned, maybe every 3 or 4 months he'd fight like a legit challenger or maybe a WBC mandatory, which was a title that he held at the time and stuff. He never really got a lot of respect. And for a guy who fought, I think he might have fought about 100 fights at one point, or maybe still has, maybe got 100 fights and that, but he never really got a lot of respect. And as Dave says, he was pound for pound rated at one point. And again, some people at that point did take the piss at him.
Andy, I'm on fire tonight. Naito beat him for the WBC flyweight title in 2007.
They fought 4 times. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, the last one was a draw.
Yeah, and
I feel like I remember.
You don't get iced in the first round of the first fight, or was it the other way around about?
Can't remember. Must have been the other way about because I don't think he won until the third one. Go ahead, Dave.
I feel like I remember him and he ended up becoming old overnight and lost one of those sort of interim fights against not necessarily the top rated guy. Didn't he get knocked out by one of those journeymen?
I'm just going to pull up his record just
He
now.
had 97 fights, Andy, 97 fights, yeah.
So he's fought Rungvisai, the other one, Edgar Souza,
Hussein.
Luis Lazareta.
Wait, when you look at Asian boxing or whatever, it's kind of like looking at the old days when you look at Sugar Ray Robinson. Everybody fucking fought everybody 3 or 4 times. It's unbelievable. You look back and you're like, I didn't know this guy fought this guy. I mean, that's, I like Asian boxing for that reason. Anyways, go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
No, it's just saying, mate. He doesn't get a lot of respect. He has fought a lot of ex-champions. The guy is it Miranda? I think his name was Julio. It might have been Julio Miranda, I'm sure. I mean, he's an ex-champion. Naeto's an ex-champion. Kameda is like a 3-weight ex-champion and stuff. He beat him in a majority decision. That's what made him pound for pound. They regained the title back and all that sort of stuff. And then went on. Okay, again, as I say, he didn't fight a lot of great challengers. That he did fight Edgar Souza, Hook, Gonzalez would fight him again at one point. And then, obviously, it was, as Dave mentioned, he got old kind of quick because he got iced off Sonny Boyaro, a body shot in the 6th round about a couple of years after that. And then
in 2005, Andy, he beat Unknown. He knocked out Unknown. Boxrec don't even know who the opponent was.
There we go. It might be some guy off the street just looking for some heroin money or something like that.
That's bad, isn't it?
It's bad.
Right, let's move on before Smido commits suicide. Final card of the weekend, Maris Briedis against Alexander Usyk. Andy, we'll stay with you. I believe you are travelling over to the beautiful Arena Riga. You know what? It's going to be absolutely fucking freezing in there.
Oh, probably is, mate. I've got the Long Johns looked at and stuff like that. The wife's coming with us, but she's getting left behind for the fight night and stuff like that. So any excuse to give the love all a bit if it's didn't work, But so the fight itself, I tell you what, actually, just on Friday, I was looking at the card actually, and there only had 2 fights announced, and then I noticed that before we came live there, actually, that there's actually quite a few others being announced today as well. A couple of Swiss fighters.
Of heavyweight prospects, Hergovich and Otto Wallin are on it.
I'm looking forward to seeing Hergovich. She's been highly touted, obviously in WSB and obviously in the amateurs and stuff. I think he might have lost to Tony Yoka at one point in the. It might be the World Championships actually, I think, at one point. But he seems to be getting a bit of a good push now. I think there's really not much point really kind of messing about. Again with these guys, with these high-ranking amateur experiences and stuff, WSB, get them up on fucking level. That's what I'm talking about. Mickey Nielsen, though, drugs cheat. He's on the card. I'm a bit disappointed with this one. He fought in South Africa back against Kevin Larenya. I think it might have been late 2016, maybe mid 2016. Failed a drugs test, and because the lab wasn't accredited with WADA for some reason, the drug test can be ignored by other commissions. So lo and behold, about a year later, he's fighting in Germany, Nicky Nielsen. So it's a bit kind of poor form and stuff. But Briedis against Usyk, I think this is going to be a bit of a long trail. I'm expecting 12 rounds. Briedis, again, ex-kickboxing background. I'd expect to do a bit of movement. Usyk, obviously, we know what he's all about, his movement, jab. If he gets you in the ropes, he's going to tee off and stuff. But I think this is going to be a bit of a kind of cagey fight, a bit of a chess match as well. Briedis is decent enough to kind of make it ugly as well. So
I think it will be ugly, Andy. I think there's going to be a lot of clinching and ugly work, to be honest.
Again, it depends how Usyk's going to work up close. If he does get held, is he going to be able to kind of break out of there and maybe just dig a few hooks to the body, to the head and stuff? I'd like to see Briedis test him with a right uppercut or something. I'd like to see Usyk just kind of take a hard shot, see where he's at, see if he can take a shot. I think Briedis got kind of really sneaky power. But hang on, Steve. See, ever since I booked up for this, I'm saying to myself, I think this has got all the hallmarks of a fucking boring fight. And the other thing as well is just on the ticket situation. I was on checking on Friday night. I'm surprised at the amount of tickets is still vacant for this. A couple of guys.
Is it expensive, Andy? Is it too expensive?
I think it is. I think that's what's happened. Compared to the Perez fight, the £40 or the €40 tickets are now based at €60 or €70 tickets. So they've obviously overpriced the tickets for us after New Year and Christmas time. You know what we're thinking about. You know, there's swathes of the arena actually, you know, just basically sitting vacant. So I think most of the €40 tickets, which is the top tier, they're all sold out. So I can see these guys getting pulled into the kind of maybe the lower half of the bowl. I've got a €150 ticket, so my section's almost sold out, which is almost in a ringside, So they might try and shift some more tickets on a discounted price later on this week. Minus €5,
€150 in Latvia.
Yeah,
that's like, I mean, you know, they might as well blow you for that much. I mean, Jesus.
Well, the wife's got checked in for a fucking full body massage for 3 hours for €180. So, but the thing is, I get violence at the end of the night, so that's what I'm worried about, you know. So,
I'll give her a full body massage for €0.
I don't know, mate. You couldn't handle her.
Probably not.
I'm struggling to handle her.
Why do we always end up down this route?
Because these guys have been laid for fucking 6 months.
Nonsense. I just haven't been laid by a white woman.
Oh.
All black women, Indian women, and Asian women for me.
Right, Dave. Yeah, I know. I'm here. I couldn't unmute myself fast enough. Right, Dave. You're going in the sin bin, isn't that what they're doing? Ice hockey. Rob, I'm coming to you. Take us back onto the road, onto the good path, Rob, please. Briedis against Usyk. WBC and WBO titles are on the line. Kenny Bayless is the referee. We're in good hands with good old Kenny. I think Briedis is going to give it.
Wait, Steve. I think when you were talking about Kenny Bayless, I think you took us back down the road. No.
By the way, can I just say Michelle Phelps is going to be in attendance as well. So, Tommy, mate.
Good luck with that one, Rob. What I was going to say was, I think Briedis is going to give Usyk a proper fight. I don't think it's going to be a walkover at all. I think it's going to be a close one. What do you say?
I could see that. I mean, Usyk looks the business, doesn't he? After 13 fights, it's always hard to say. Like, he's with the right team. He's got Klimas. He's been looking good all the way forward. Looked good against Hook. Yeah, I'm with Andy as well. I'd like to see him get his jaw tested. Do you know what I mean? It's always good to see these guys get their jaw tested. So 13 fights, good few knockouts, been taken the distance by the wacky. I think this one could go the distance too, but I would favour Usyk still. But Briedis is no mug, like, you know what I mean? I think I would favour at this point. I'd favour Usyk because I think he's going to be the man in that division eventually. But yeah, I'd like to see him take a shot along the way to see how he handles it. Like.
Yeah, Smido, I think that Briedis will make it an ugly fight and drag Usyk down. I think Briedis is very physically strong. He's got a good jab. He can get the uppercuts going and he'll maybe frustrate Usyk, grab hold of him, a few shots to the back of the head. The referee, I mentioned Kenny Bayless for a reason. He's going to have to be very strong, I think, because this has the potential to get ugly. And Usyk could get frustrated. That's why I'll give Briedis a chance. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd give Briedis a chance as well. I'm not fully sold on Usyk, and I haven't been for yet, to be honest. But I think he's just one of them, Usyk, that does kind of everything to a very efficient and decent level without being absolutely spectacular for the casuals like me to latch onto him. So, but I give Briedis a chance. I'm just trying to get the odds up here because I remember him being reasonably wide actually.
Yeah, tell us where the value is, Smith. That's your role.
I can't give you any value because I can't predict any fights. But Usyk's 1-6 and Briedis is 11-2, and I think that is a fantastic price. Over 5-1 for Briedis. And like you, I know you've been a fan of him, and I think you picked him to win. Did you not, Steve?
Who?
To win the whole thing, Marius.
No, I picked Dorticos.
Oh, did you? Right. Oh, sorry. Fair enough. But yeah, that I think that I would give Briedis a chance at the prices, especially on obviously he's on home ground. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Fair enough. So no, that'll be good. Is it on ITV?
It is on ITV as far as I'm aware. Yes.
For free.
Is that the one they announced? Andy, you retweeted something. Was it this or the Garcia? Yeah.
No, the two Cruiserweight fights are on ITV box office for free, and I think the other two are actually you need to pay for. Groves Eubank, obviously, and Smith Bremer. You need to pay for that one.
Crazy world, isn't it?
It's mental, mate. But listen, I'm looking forward to meeting some of the guys there next week, and that I'll be live on Friday. I think Andres Podzov's going to pick us up for the airport. He fought out of Scotland for a wee bit. He's back in Latvia now. So
Friend of the podcast.
Friend of the pod. Used to go in the forum back in the day and that as well. So I'll have a wee chinwag with him. I'll meet up with Lewis and that guy for Liverpool on Saturday, I suppose. A few beers, pack the wife off, and go out and get on it, and hope for some, fireworks in the arena.
I think more people would be. I think more people would be picking Briedis if he would have done a more headline-grabbing job on Perez. But as I remember it, Perez, kind of refused to really engage later, especially in the latter half of the fight. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And Usyk won't slow down the way Perez did. You wouldn't have thought.
No. I think the two obviously pretty big fellas are going to go head on, and although they are big guys, you wouldn't. I mean, Briedis' last couple of fights have gone the distance, similar to Usyk. Really, obviously, he stopped Hook late on, but we expected that anyway. But yeah, they're not one punch, 3 or 4 round knockout artists, are they? Let's just put it that way.
Hater, did you want to add something? Go ahead and then tell us your pick for the fight.
Well, I was just going to ask Andy, do you think Usyk's going to remember you?
How no? I mean, how many other Bull Scotsmen does he meet? No money. I've not made the weigh-in, so I've probably not got a chance to see him this time, actually, in all honesty. But wait and see what happens. I'll maybe be able to top myself into the after party or something like that. But
yeah, you got to get him on the pod.
I actually heard him on another podcast a couple of weeks back. Actually, it would be a nightmare. I mean, obviously his English is limited, but it's a bit of a nightmare when you've got a translator and stuff, and you just don't know what he's telling you is true or whatever.
Well, all we need him to say is, "I am very feel."
I feel very feel.
Having limited English isn't the barrier to getting on here. Sure, we've had Tommy on for the last so many years.
Aye.
Right, go on then, Dave. Who's going to win and what?
I'm leaning towards Usyk, even though I want Briedis to win because I've been high on the guy since he sparked Char. I like him. I like that there's finally a Latvian who's not pregnant and has some skills about him. And I still haven't seen his Perez performance because I just heard it was so bad, and I was working at the time, so I never bothered to watch it after I heard how bad it was. Maybe I should watch it before this weekend coming up, just so I'm prepared. But I know, Briedis is solid, and Usyk a little bit overrated, I think, earlier on in his career. I don't know where most people see him now, but I think they're both very good fighters. The final is going to be amazing.
Got the boys kicked off again, yeah.
Kicked off again there. I was just going to, while Dave comes back on, actually, I was just going to say that, I remember when Briedis knocked out Manny Char, actually, Dave was one of the first people who says, we need to see more of this guy, so there's Dave back. He can finish off what he was saying.
Dave.
Well, the final is going to be amazing regardless of who the winners of either of these next two fights are, I think. This is probably, like, I agree with your guys' assessment. It's likely to be cagey. It's likely to be tactical. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's boring. I very much expect it to go all 12 rounds. With probably, I feel like Usyk's style is better for winning rounds here because he's longer and taller, and he's got a good work rate. And that work rate at range, I think, really appeals to the judges. It's going to be a little tougher to see what Briedis is doing because he's going to have to work more on the inside, unless he sets up big bombs from the outside, which I think it's going to be hard for him to do. But we'll see. I would probably favor Usyk with his greater work rate on the outside. No massive punches landed from either guy probably throughout the night. It's going to be more tactical, just more maybe even like an amateur fight, like tapping punches to kind of eke out the victory for Usyk.
Well, if it's an amateur fight, then that's a Usyk fight.
Yeah, that's I think that's how he's going to go.
Ozzy, you're like me. You're a connoisseur of the small halls. You've seen a fair few Latvians getting beaten up over the years. Hopefully, Briedis can be the standard bearer for Latvian boxing. A little bit, Karoly Balzai, I remember, was a Lithuanian who fought for the WBO super middleweight title. No, it wasn't. Who was it? No, sorry, I'm thinking of Tarvidus. Fought Karoly Balzai for the Lithuanian. This ain't going very well, is it? Briedis is hopefully going to be the standard bearer for Latvian boxing. Ozzy, do you think we'll see more fighters of a higher caliber coming through, or is Briedis just like sort of 1 in a million and the rest will just be journeymen?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's like once in a blue moon, isn't he? He's like, it was I think from what other people said, it was actually good to see someone who's not coming over, who's whatever, drank 4 gallons of water just to make weight and then get the shit kicked out of them for 2 rounds, and then they sod off back home with a couple of €1,000, and then they're back in the UK a couple of weeks after. I think the fight will be relatively... I think it'll be cagey somewhat. I rate Usyk. He was my pick to win it from when the tournament was announced. He's got a lot of skills, and I think they will ultimately benefit him in this fight. That saying, I think it'll be close, but the 11-2 on Briedis isn't bad. I think I would say it's a bit closer than that. I wouldn't say he's a 5.5 to 1 shot in this. Like I say, he's got the home advantage. Will that play a massive part? I'm not too sure, but I agree. I can't see it being, bombs away what Dorticos, Gassiev might be in a couple of weeks. I think this will be more of a boxing match of sorts, and we'll see. Me personally, I think Usyk will run out a winner, but that definitely doesn't mean it's the end for Briedis. For me, he's boxing the best cruiserweight going, so he'll definitely be able to bounce back. And you never know, I could be talking complete and utter shit, and he goes and causes the upset, and he goes into the final on the way to the winner.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make very badly before bought in Aussie was in 2008, Karol Balzai, who was 17-0 and from Hungary, which is a country usually associated with journeymen, had aspired up towards world level, and he fought for the WBO Intercontinental Super Middleweight title against 15-2 Mantas Tarvydas, who was also doing well from Lithuania, another country associated usually with journeymen. Was it even worth it? Who shall know? Donny, let's get you in with a question from Danny Young. He says, I am expecting Usyk to win the World Boxing Super Series. And in a recent interview, Usyk said he wants to step up and fight the best heavyweights. Do you, Donny, think that Usyk has the attributes to step up to heavyweight and mix with the big boys?
Yeah, he has the boxing attributes to at least contend. Not sure that he could... So the cruiserweight limit's what, 200 pounds. I don't know what he rehydrates to. He could put on a good showing, and I think he could beat most heavyweights. I think he would run into trouble with the Wilders, the Joshuas, and the Furies. I think that those guys are just... you're talking guys who are over 250 pounds, and 40, 50 pounds is a lot of goddamn weight to be giving up. That's the reason why the cruiserweight division was created in the first place, right? Because in the old days, it used to be that everybody who was over 190 pounds was a heavyweight, back in the Rocky Marciano days and in the years prior. And then, we started having these massive guys who previously were thought as unathletic. And then, you had the Klitschko's and everything. You had these massive dudes, and they were, it turns out they were quite athletic and they were doing a good job. I think it would be really tough for him to crack into the upper echelon, but I think he could absolutely beat the pants off of a lot of the top level gatekeeper type contenders. But with Tyson Fury and with Anthony Joshua and with Deontay Wilder, I think he would struggle. That being said, though, I think that while Usyk is clearly the best overall talent in that entire cruiserweight pool, something just tells me that Dorticos is special. And I really hope that the final that we get is Dorticos versus Usyk, because I think that's the guy who can test his chin, and we'll find out what Usyk's really made of if we get that fight.
We'll talk about it in due course, obviously, but even though I've picked Dorticos to win the whole thing, I expect Gassiev to beat him, and then Gassiev, who is huge for cruiserweight, to move up to heavyweight. Before we finish up on the Bellew of the Week, Andy, I believe you want to have a quick word about Eric Skoglund.
Yeah, just good news that he's home, back in his home in Nykoping. Obviously, after all that brain bleed after a sparring incident, he was seen walking about his hometown, with one crutch for support, and he's basically mentioned on social media that a long rehab awaits him, and he will share information in due course once he's up for it. just to discuss what happened. Obviously, it's been a bad time for his family, and that. I mean, he's been in a coma since, well, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas time, and it's over the course of New Year and that. So obviously, his family's been absolutely fucking pig sick. The pictures that I saw him actually sitting with his Christmas presents, so at least he gets to kind of spend a belated Christmas present with his wife and daughter. So it's good news.
Good news indeed, Andy, definitely. On a more frivolous note, if you're listening to us now on YouTube live and you're in the chat, go over and hit the little thumbs up button to tell YouTube that you enjoy listening to us. Why not? You know what I mean? Give them a shout out. They might push us up the rankings or something. And also over on iTunes, go and leave a review. We're in the month of January, so nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable, Donna.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, the month of January is like our month, so...
Yeah, thanks for that. Right, let's get on to the Bellew of the Weeks, everybody, and then we shall get out of here.
It's going to happen, mate. We're going to do it. And when we do it, it's going to be vicious, mate. I ain't a man dregsing with the weights. I ain't a man taking the last ounces of my soul on the scales. I've done that before. I ain't doing it no more. You can say what you want, so Bellew's not in shape, Bellew looks fleshy at the weight. Bellew's just iced a man who's never been done before. Bellew just feels in absolutely fantastic shape. Bellew doesn't lose 2.5 stone no more each time for the camp. Bellew goes to the gym now 15 stone and just cuts 10 pounds nice and easy. I fought Nathan Cleverly in my 16th fight, 15 fight novice. I'd fought, the best person I fought was Over McKenzie at British title level. I am now, it's that 25, it's that 26 fights. I've fought some of the best. I've fought the best fighter in the world in my weight class. One of the biggest pound for pound punchers in the world. I've beat guys like Isaac Chilemba, world ranked guys. Let's see who beats Isaac Chilemba. I've beat renowned punchers, Ederson Miranda. I'm not saying he was the best Ederson Miranda. I'm just saying I've beat these guys. Okay, everyone's saying, well, Tony, he did beat you. He beat a guy who basically got a fight because he opened his mouth at a press conference and he shit himself a shitload of ticket to the Echo Arena. That's why I got that fight. Everybody thought he was going to smash me. Everyone involved with that fight thought he was going to smash me. But when he went to within an inch of losing, and it's a decision that could have been either way, he doesn't want to come near me after it. That's why he couldn't answer the question then when I said it in front of him. Just answer me this. Why wouldn't you take the rematch immediately? You know what he said? I think he was saying what that Welsh train station was. That long word. I couldn't understand what he was saying. I just answered a simple question like, why wouldn't you fight me the minute after the rematch happened? He wouldn't fight me because he believed he was going to knock me out and he just believed he was going to beat me up. And that's all I've got to say about that. Right, let's do it right now. Now, you fucking rat.
Can't beat a bit of the Bellew of the Week theme, Andy.
Always good to have it back, mate. I don't know if he's listening or no. I dare say a word will get to him, but he's unblocked me this week on Twitter for some reason. I need to start looking at my shoulder actually, just in case he's got me on some sort of hit list or whatever, you know.
Maybe he wants to come on. If you're listening, Tony, come and join us.
Simple as that, mate.
It'll be worth more than a carrot if he comes on.
We always love an impression from you, Dave.
He must have heard I was doing it Goodison a couple of months back with my dad for a stadium tour and that. He must have thought, I see that guy, a good spud.
He's a good guy. Right, let's get on to the Bellew of the Week, and then we shall finish up for another week. Frank Warren, new fight announcement coming soon. At this point, we didn't know what it was. Bellew Paco Ali has nominated Gary Nolan, who said, is it O'Hara Davis versus Liam Beefy Smith?
I just say, I thought it was going to be, you mentioned Frank Warren, I thought you were going to say that card that he just announced there. That card is fucking putrid. I don't care if Warren sues me. That card is shite, mate.
Which one are you talking about, Andy? There could be a couple of them.
That one that Anthony Yard and Bradley Skeets on.
Oh, the Untouchables, yeah, that's terrible.
Oh my fucking word, that is all.
I think it could be one of the worst cards I've ever seen in the past 10 years. It is appalling. How BT are actually running with this is a disgrace. It's an embarrassment. After a good year as well, he announces this shite. It's utter garbage.
Dempsey better be on top form that night, by the way. He better be calling it as he sees it. And as I see it, before it even starts, it is pish.
Yeah, it's garbage. But I think what will happen is your Yard, Dubois and Skeet, basically these are all knockover jobs. They'll then jump onto the Saunders and Flanagan doubleheader at the O2, which has been announced on Tuesday.
Yes, on paper, Ozzy, just on a slight tangent, that's not a bad card actually on paper, but I think that it has the potential to be pretty horrific style-wise, especially Flanagan Hooker. Saunders against Murray, I'm like you, I don't necessarily think it's too bad because it keeps Saunders active while the big guys are, getting their business sorted out. Yeah. Murray is obviously not going to win the fight, but I think stylistically Flanagan Hooker could be terrible.
I think Terry will stop him. I think it'll be... He's not cutting the weight like he has to. He's a big guy, Flanagan, and I think he will do a job on him. Might be a bit bad to watch early on, but I think he'll then take over. And for the Murray fight, I completely agree with everybody saying that Martin Murray does not deserve another world title fight. Completely agree.
Amen.
However, I can see why he's been selected.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, you look at the WBO top 10 rankings now. You've got Canelo in there. Rule him out. He's boxing Golovkin. You've got Danny Jacobs. They will not risk him in with Danny Jacobs with the Canelo Golovkin winner up next. Not going to happen. Charlo in there as well. Not going to happen.
Andrade.
Andrade. Not going to happen.
Douglas got iced.
Yeah. And bear in mind as well, you've got to think, Frank's going to play on the fact that his guys just had probably one of the best wins of his career. He wants him to box in front of his own fans with the potential that he could quite easily bring Golovkin over if he wins. It's been done before. Canelo will happen abroad, obviously.
And Murray's known to the British public as Aussie in a way that the likes of Walter Corton Dockwell isn't.
Wait, you're saying that if Golovkin beats Canelo and Saunders beats whoever the fuck he fights Murray, that's going to happen in Ireland? What are you, nuts? I mean, it's going to happen in Vegas.
It could happen in the UK quite clearly.
I think that if Golovkin beats Canelo convincingly, or especially if he knocks him out, that's...
It wouldn't happen in Ireland. It'd happen in a stadium probably over in the UK. It could quite easily happen. He's brought him over before. Eddie Hearn brought him over.
Another close Canelo Golovkin fight, though. You can see them having a third, and then where's Saunders going to go then? That's the problem.
I was going to ask, what stadium are going to sell out? I mean, what connections Saunders got with any stadium fight, apart from London?
I'm going off what Frank Warren said. He's eyeing up the Emirates. He's an Arsenal fan, Saunders. He goes quite often, actually. So that with the stadium around before.
But I've always believed that the Gunner Stadium was actually, there was a problem with that. They couldn't get a license because it was like a residential area. So really? There was one fight. I forget what fight it was, but I remember this being broached, and it says the planning permission was rejected because there was surrounding areas, highly populated residential areas. So the thing had to be, might be an Eddie Hearn card actually. They had to have it shut off by a certain time, and Hearn couldn't guarantee that. So. That was ducked.
That'll be it anyway. I mean, it might not happen, but realistically, that's what Frank would want to do anyway. But going back to the Murray selection, like you said, Steve, you go down the rest of the rankings. You've got a couple of African guys who've won fringe WBO belts, and then you've got Martin Murray at 10. Now, Martin Murray is marketable to not the staunch boxing fan, the more casual people who've seen him on Sky Sports. He will come to win. He won't win, but he will come to win. And it's a no risk fight for Saunders. He's not going to stop him. So you think, and I actually think Saunders could stop Martin Murray. I think just through overwhelming. He's not going to worry about getting hit. And I think this is one where he can continue to look good and then go on to it after it.
Right, on our Bellews, we have got one sent in from Chad Hogan, who goes by Sir Arthur Day 9 on Twitter these days. Sashio said, salute to Sky Sports and Matchroom Boxing if Carlsberg made promotional and broadcast teams. And then one of those little flexi muscle emojis. Craig Taylor has been nominated. Eddie Hearn said, just a reminder to get in quick when ordering Joshua Parker on Sky Sports box office. Early bird offer of $39.99 in HD will rise to $49.99 after February the 1st. Well, Mr. Taylor, Andy, was not happy. He said, £40? Are you mad? Anyone who buys that, well, you're a fool.
Something saying, when you see some of these proclamations nowadays, like how the cost of this and that, you've got to click on the profile to see, is this fucking for real? Because I've been caught out myself. Like, I'm not even going to lie. I think we've all been caught out, but just fucking some people are just so easy. And as I said again, I've been guilty of myself on that. So maybe go easy on the guy.
Go easy on the guy, says Andy. I don't like telling them too early, the way people jump in straight away and say it's a fictional account. I think they should string them out and let a few other people get caught.
I've seen Spike do it with somebody, actually. There was somebody he wound up with that. He was wanting, like, somebody's picture or whatever, and he says, "Can I use this on your channel?" And all. It was the way he set it up was fucking brilliant.
Fight Fan UK has nominated Rio Ferdinand. Rio's on the boxing trail still, apparently. He was up at 4:37 a.m. doing some weightlifting, and as Enzo Macarinelli pointed out, a little bit bright for 4:37. Looked like it was in the afternoon. I smell bullshit here from Mr. Ferdinand. Unfortunately, I don't think it was 20 to 5 in the morning, not in the current climate anyway. Joe Thackeray has said, my mate has just texted me and said that Femi has been on Channel 4 News and said he is willing to help the country in the future. What's he going to do? He said he wants to become a politician. Politicians are old and need young, creative minds, says Femi. I dread to think what type of policies he's going to be coming up with, Dave.
Yeah, he's going to make it into the next South Africa, isn't he?
Aye, you can imagine that the whites will be getting exterminated like the Jews.
Right, another one from Chad Hogan has nominated Curtis Woodhouse. What, Rob?
You have Mugabe in for vice president.
Yeah, the man who never dies. Curtis Woodhouse has been on Twitter this week. He's talking about Angelo Dundee. He's trained great fighters. That doesn't make him a great trainer. End of discussion. Angelo Dundee wasn't a great trainer, says Curtis. He's taken too many shots, hasn't he?
Curtis Woodhouse needs to know is Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, if not the greatest heavyweight of all time. Remind me again, what did Ali do before he tried to get a trainer? Who did they chase down, and who did they sit and wait for 3 hours to try and see, and then spoke to him for 5 hours when they finally got a chance to speak to him? That would be Angelo Dundee. Sugar Ray Leonard, he's trained him. That bum of a welterweight that came up to become an all-time great. Him.
Actually, though, Andy, he is an all-time great trainer. But to be fair, with Sugar Ray Leonard, he actually only really would get involved with him or whatever, like in the last camp.
But yeah. I mean, the thing is, he calls him a bum trainer. This is a guy who trained Basilio. I think he might have trained Alfredo Gomez, Foreman, Jimmy Ellis.
He was already
Rico Nunn, Wally Pastrano. Wally Pastrano is regarded one of the greatest light heavyweights of all time, and he's a fucking bum trainer.
Whenever I think of Dundee, for some reason, I always remember him right at the end of his career training a big Swedish heavyweight called Attila Levin. That's his legacy in my eyes. That's how strange I am, I suppose.
Jose Napoles. There's another one of the greatest welterweights of all time.
I'm surprised, Steve, you don't think of one of your favorite fighters, Michael Nunn. I believe Dundee had.
He did. Absolutely did.
Yes, that was after with Goosen, wasn't it? Was that after Goosen? Yeah, after he left Goosen. Where he left Goosen for the Tony fight? I can't remember. No, hang on, let me think. Oh, I can't remember. I'm getting confused. No, it wasn't Goosen. It was what do you call you, man? Oh, fuck it, I can't remember.
I wasn't disagreeing with Steve or Andy. I was just pointing out that when it comes to Leonard, he wasn't the only guy involved. That's all I was saying.
The thing is, Dundee, as you say, used to come into training camp. I think for the Hagler fight, he came in 2 weeks beforehand. They saw that Leonard was circling to the left, I think, even though Hagler was a southpaw, but he was actually a converted right-hander. So Hagler's power hand was the right, even though he fought as a southpaw. His power shot was the right hand.
Right, sorry, I was looking something up there, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, Colin Hart was nominated by Rob Kelly, friend of the pod, Rob, comparing Ingle Saunders' relationship to Dundee Ali and Hearns Stewart after his fight against, wait for it, what was it Billy Joe Saunders fought, Rob? Daniel Lemieux. I think we should put him out to pasture like Jeff Pell.
He's clearly like my granny. He's clearly got Alzheimer's.
Sean Stevenson has nominated William Galway. William Galway says BJ Saunders versus Martin Murray is a great fight, although always thought Murray was one of the best British fighters in the last 15 years, never to win a world title. Why do you Yanks call Billy Joe Saunders BJ Saunders? That really annoys me for some reason.
Because they're two lazy bastards, that's why. That's why they're fat. They're that fucking lazy. They can't even talk properly. They've got to call him BJ, dirty bastards.
Maybe because we're just making fun of him because he's like a big BJ.
Yeah, I was right about none. It was Joe Goosen who got him to 35, and I was thinking of Dan Goosen, but it was Joe Goosen.
I see he's not in jail for the cocaine smuggling thing.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy that such a talented fighter ended up like that.
He must be due shortly, though, eh?
Oh, you would imagine so.
He's got about 30 years for that or something.
Yeah, I know, it's a shame. Scott Huyton, this isn't the Bellew of the week, but, well, I suppose he's having a go at Eddie, really. He's been kicked off Twitter for having a go at Charlie Sims. Scott Huyton tweeted, Eddie Hearn and the Sims, what they've done to O'Hara Davis is more than disgusting than his daft tweet. Charlie Sims should have been looking after his interests. It's his fucking job. Hope other fighters give them a wide berth because of this. Hashtag cunts. And Scott Huyton got banned off Twitter for this. Censorship gone mad, he says. Is this Iran? That's the way Twitter's going, unfortunately, Scott. With all this fake news shit, they're trying to ban everybody from saying everything. Donnie, I'm not going to ban you from saying everything, although if you keep going for too much longer, I might have to. What is it?
Oh, I thought you were at the last one, and I was going to...
See, that's the thing. Donnie doesn't go on for that on the podcast that often nowadays, so he's got to speak all the time.
Well, yeah.
Pray for Donnie.
You would get engaged, Donnie, didn't I? You got engaged to the puss. Now you can fucking put up with it. And the reason Smeedo's depressed is because he got married recently and now he's not getting any fucking pussy.
Women.
It's the old saying, eh? It's all saying is, you know, your old granny's night dress appears that fucking night you got married, eh? Yeah, he fucking, he's fucking sewed up to the fucking stitching.
Right.
The worst thing that happened to Donnie, you got civilized.
Yeah, you got civilized, mate. Listen.
I've been hungry since you won that belt. What was it?
Remember, Rock. Women, weaken legs.
You lousy bum Smitto. You couldn't even catch a chicken. I had a good. We should do a whole pod of Burgess Meredith impressions some night.
Seriously, that's like, oh man, he was one of the best character actors of his time. He was awesome.
Yeah, that was a classic.
Check out the movie Magic. It's a horror movie with Anthony Hopkins about like a puppet. And Burgess Meredith's in it. Great movie.
Piss off, Dave. Right, back to the Bellew of the week.
I had a Bellew of the week. I had a Bellew of the week for a nomination for Shannon the Cannon Briggs, who thought he was after finding Tyson Fury.
Another friend of the pod, by the way.
Yeah. He thought he was after finding Tyson Fury in a hotel lobby and was going to go over and Let's Go Champ confront him, and it turned out it was just some fat lad sitting in the lobby.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was a good one. I'm sorry, but
I'm sorry.
Let's go champ. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad, champ. I thought you were Tyson Fury. Let's go champ. I'm sorry, champ.
When I saw that, all I could think of was that episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm when Larry David thinks it's the guy that called him a Jew motherfucker or whatever, and it's this bald guy, and he goes up to him or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, you want a fucking fight?" And it turns out they're like, "No, sir, this man is in chemo." Like, yeah, he's bald. He's only bald because he has cancer. And like, I mean, basically, like, Briggs went up to this guy or whatever because he looked like Tyson Fury because he was bald. All right.
I was thinking more of the old Peter Kay sketch when he picks up the wee kid getting on the bus with the hood up, and he goes, "There you go, little fella, I'll help you." And he turns around and it's a dwarf.
Another totally unrelated pop culture reference. Samantha Bee recently did something like that where she accused a cancer patient, of being a fascist because of his hair. Yeah, she's an unfunny, miserable, supposedly celebrity comic, but obviously screwed that one up. Right,
let me finish off these Bellew of the weeks.
I think I have a pretty good nomination. Is for Anthony Mundane. We didn't get to this, did we?
No, go on. You tell us.
So Anthony Mundane said, the only reason why Jeff Horn gets any attention by the mainstream media in Australia or in the world is because he's white. And, which is ridiculous. It's not as if, like, Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao, right? It's only because he's white. Like, that's the only reason why anybody pays any attention to him. It has nothing to do with the fact that he beat Pacquiao.
And it's even doubly ridiculous because this is Mundane, a guy who's been so over-promoted in his career just because he's Australian. This was after Garth Wood iced him, and they had him on the front of Australian boxing legends, the men in the middle, between the two best fighters in the world.
Yeah,
that was nomination for Mundane then, Donnie?
Pardon?
Nomination for Mundane then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Andrew G has nominated Arizona Ron for talking about Corrales On each occasion, Corrales hit the deck against Floyd Mayweather. It looked like it was staged, and he just wanted to get through the rounds and get his check. Craig Mastro has nominated Adrien Broner for his coat from last night. Yes, I can get on board with that one. This is a good one. Tony Bellew was talking about Spence being the best welterweight on the planet. Brad Nickel jumped in and said, until Josh Pretty Boy Kelly is ready and takes him out, hashtag Team Pretty Boy Kelly. All right, then. Bellew of the week for Brian Haddon for talking about why Fury shouldn't fight AJ. Everybody's getting bloody kicked off. And this is a cracker right at the end from Derek has nominated Chris M. Carlisle. Chris Carlisle said, I wonder how long AJ can sustain his undefeated KO streak. I just know that he will beat Wilder due to Wilder swinging openly and leaving himself open. But will there be anyone who can stop AJ? What if Chris Eubank Jr. moved up from middleweight like Roy Jones Jr.?
Oh, my fuck.
That's all the ones that I've got, right? Who's got some for me?
I've got some. Right, Johnny Nelson for calling David Higgins the village idiot. This is the guy who says, if you're going to measure this fight down to fitness for this fight, I give it to Conor McGregor. Nelson, AJ taking Pulev risk. Nelson, Brook can KO Triple G early. Village idiot? I think not. Barry Hearn for his basically, I don't know if anybody's seen my tweets and that over the course of the last week there and stuff, but basically, I was going on about how O'Hara Davis has been chucked under the bus for these comments and that. Right? I don't know what the fuck's happened about this thing with the Sun, but basically, I says to Barry Hearn, who came out and says Conor has a. You're talking about, remember when Porky made the bid for Conor Benn to fight one of his fighters, and Barry came back and says Conor has a huge future, managed properly. Don't forget, he's a very young fighter with very little amateur experience. We believe in him long term, so fingers crossed. And I says, but he defend Ben, but didn't defend Davis. Hypocritical. And he came back and says, entirely different situations. Surely understand that. Now, I didn't understand, different situations here. Conor Benn fucking mocked a disabled child, right? O'Hara Davis baited Tommy Coyle over an ex-colleague of his or ex-friend of his or whatever who worked in the gym, who got done for stealing something, who got reported in the Sun, right? And Barry Hearn's just basically, he's taking a fucking wage off the Sun. So I think Barry Hearn deserves it for being hypocritical. And I don't know if we've got another one.
His dealings with Porky were bullshit anyway, Andy, because the way Barry said, we're operating on different levels. What's that got to do with anything? Ben's 11-0, just fought a French journeyman. The guy that Porky Russ was putting forward is like 7-0, 25 grand or whatever it was on the table. What has levels got to do with it? Absolutely nothing in this case.
Zero. They're probably on the same level. And the last one for me is Anthony Fowler. What an absolute prick. I'm glad to say I've got him blocked because he's an absolute penis, right? This is the guy who came out saying that recently defending Khan, I think for some, I forget again exactly what he was defending Khan for again, right? I think it's because of the amount of shite that he takes and all that sort of stuff. Now, bearing in mind, Anthony Fowler came out a few years back and says, if it's true Khan versus Chris Algieri is on, you've got to say he is scared to risk fighting Special K Brook because he's not a bigger name and has no belt. Right, and this is a guy who then comes out like a couple of years later and then defends Khan for shite that he's getting. Anthony Fowler, this is like Broner with you, mate. I cannot wait to see you getting knocked out. I can't wait because it's going to come. It is definitely going to come.
It's coming.
Oh, it's coming. Just like me last night, it's going to come and it's going to come hard.
Right, any more nominations?
Andy, what was his name?
Ramit Body. He's an Indian guy.
Any more nominations? Come on.
I got one.
Yeah, I've go on, you, Pat.
You go first, Dave, and then Ozzy, you go after.
Okay. This is from Andreas Hale on Twitter. He's not the nominee, but he is providing the quote. Danny Garcia said that Errol Spence and Terence Crawford need to fight, and then the winner would face him.
Who?
Andreas Hale, he's a good guy. Actually, he has a podcast and he writes for some hip hop publications as well. He knows stuff. But yeah, he said he asked Danny Garcia that, and then he said in his tweet, "I laughed so hard," as we all did.
Right, go on, Ozzy. What have you got for us?
Right, I have a couple. So it's Curtis Woodhouse, but for another one this time. So for those who follow Curtis Woodhouse on Twitter, he's an expert and fans are not allowed opinions because they've never stepped between the ring, anything like that. So this is Curtis Woodhouse, who, back when the Ashes was on and Alistair Cook scored 240 not out for England, Curtis Woodhouse decided to go on a rant and started slagging him off, saying he only does it when the pressure's not on. Well, Curtis Woodhouse, you have never picked up a bat or ball in your life. Therefore, you're not an expert, and your opinion is worth ball all. Now, this is Curtis Woodhouse, who pleads with boxing fans to buy tickets off him when he's on these smaller hall shows. This is Curtis Woodhouse, who then goes on to slag these boxing fans off, saying their opinion does not count. So make your mind up. The guy is an utter prick, and I hope he gets iced off John Wayne Hibbert now. He can do one. And people who are considering going to these shows, you should not buy tickets off him. If you think your opinion's worthless, why is your money good enough for him anyway? And then the other one is Michael Benson again. He's still up to his old tricks.
Here we go.
We didn't get a reply from him after. I believe he's a listener of the pod. So I'd like to put him up there again. Still pinching stories left, right, and centre, and I think he may as well just be an automatic nomination now until he wins one.
Right, I think that's all. Rob, have you got any? Did you put one in? I can't remember now. I've lost track. I've lost control tonight, haven't I?
I had Colin Hart and Shannon Cannon, but one more for the Filipino Flash, Nonito Donaire, for that Ed Sheeran cover. What was that all about?
Didn't see that one.
Coogan asked him to sing, or one of them asked him to sing, and he full on went into that real annoying Ed Sheeran song. Well, yeah, he did a cover of an Ed Sheeran song. Tommy Mack actually did a good piss take out of him, and I said him and Carl did a sing off, and he put Carl through to the next round with a great Louis Walsh impression. But yeah, I don't want to see a former world champion harmonising. You know what I mean?
Well said. Well said, Rob. Right, I am going to go first. I'm tempted to go for Chris Carlisle, who said about Chris Eubank Jr. moving up for middleweight, but I'm going to go for Shannon the Cannon because I'd forgotten all about that one. That was a cracker when he went after the Tyson Fury lookalike, and then he realised it wasn't him, Andy. What do you say?
It's clearly a settle that. He was a bit of banter, but I'm going to go for Johnny Bag Nelson, actually, just because, to call anybody a village idiot, you've got to remember what you say in the past. Now, we've all said shit in the past and that, but Johnny Nelson has spoke the utmost amount of fucking tripe about boxing. I mean, Triple G get knocked out by Kell Brook. This is a guy with a chin of God, right? And he's going to get knocked out of Kell fucking Brook, a welterweight. Behave. So Johnny Bag Nelson for me.
Behave, Johnny. Ozzy, who are you going for?
There's a couple. Woodhouse for a double nomination has got to be up there. Same with Anthony Fowler as well, contradicting himself again. He's obviously Matchroom FC's new midfielder with some of the shit he comes out with. I've got to go with Shannon Briggs, just confronting a random bald guy in a restaurant or something like that, and the guy just harmlessly looking up, going...
A hotel, I think, wasn't it?
It was at a hotel looking up, like minding his own business, having a brew, and he looks up, and then Shannon Briggs is so apologetic, saying, "I'm so sorry." Yeah, so it's got to be him.
That was a good one. Donnie, who are you going for?
Well, I'm tempted to go for the... who was it that said that Leonard was... I'm sorry, that Angelo Dundee was an average trainer?
Curtis Woodhouse is a professional and an ex-soccer player, as you would say.
I couldn't remember who said it, but I was tempted to go for that, but I do think I have to go for Shannon Briggs for the case of mistaken identity. That was great.
David?
I'm going to go with Mundane, just because I hate him.
He is a cunt. But you see that knockout was pretty emphatic, actually, but he's absolute fucking past his prime. Starting on the racist shit now as well. Jeff Horn.
This is a guy who got...
Many people may not know this. Andy will. Dave will, I think. But there was a time when, early on in this podcast, the final words of every single podcast was...
Fuck Anthony Mundane.
Fuck Anthony Mundane, yeah, exactly.
It was Matty D like that, I think.
The late Matty D, whatever happened to him. Right, so congratulations to Shannon the Cannon Briggs. He is this week's Bellew of the Week. And on that note, I think we shall get out of here. Joined us. Don't forget to go over to Patreon and listen to all the bits and pieces over there. I've been Steve Wellings. I've been joined by Dave the Hater Lowback, Donny Baseball, Andy Patterson, Ozzy Smith, Rob Kelly, Adam Smido Smith was also with us. He left early. Thanks to Richie Garner and Luke Watkins as well. Hopefully we'll get our third guest on next week. A few technical issues, not to worry. Anybody else? Have I missed anybody? I don't think so. Oh, well, if you've been on and I've forgotten about you, then apologies. We'll speak to you all next week. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.